June 4th, 2010, Kyron's stepmom, Terri Horman, is the last known to have seen the boy alive around 8:45 a.m. at his school when she dropped him off for a science fair. By late afternoon, when he didn't get off the bus, a frantic search began, complete with robocalls from the school district.
If you have seen Kyron or have any information you think may be beneficial, please call Portland Police.
By nightfall, the sheriff's office was obviously worried.
He's a 7-year-old boy and we want to have him found.
Days after the disappearance, with hundreds of tips but no solid leads, an emotional sheriff's spokesman revealed the impact of the case.
We're gonna bring you home, buddy. Nothing is more important to your family, your friends, and to us. So
we're going to cover this creek area here.
As the first week drew to a close, the search for Kyron was the biggest in state history. By the 4th of July, the case had taken a twist. Court documents claimed Terri Horman tried to hire someone to kill her husband, Kane. He moved out of the house. She hired a lawyer and fled to her parents' home in Roseburg. By the next day, Kyron's dad, Kane, and his birth mom, Desiree, accused the stepmom of not cooperating with the police, and Kane drops a bombshell.
I think everyone knows the fact that she's taken her two polygraphs. She has not passed those 2 polygraphs.
As the summer dragged on, the focus on finding Kyron expanded to include the stepmom's friend, Dede Spicher, who was called in to testify in front of a grand jury investigating the case. By August, police were asking for the public's help to remember if they'd seen the Horman truck on the day of the disappearance. As the summer ended, the case made the news fewer and fewer times. The sheriff kept a task force in place through the winter and into July of last year, when it finally disbanded.
Hey everybody, welcome in. Thank you guys all for being here for Kyron. It is May 23rd of 2025. It's a Friday. Welcome into PNW. So glad to see you guys here. I just want to take a minute to tell my daughter, happy birthday, sweetheart. I hope you enjoy your camping trip with the kids. And I also just want to take a moment to honor all of the men and women who have died for our country. My family is a military family. I was raised down south. My father, my grandfather, my uncle. I have many cousins, my brother-in-law, and they have, served anywhere from the U.S. Army, the Marines, the Navy, and the Air Force. So over the weekend, take the time to honor those that have passed. I mean, it is not easy fighting for our country. And I just want to give a big thank you to all the men and women that still are serving our country. I believe in our country, and I'm very proud to be an American. I truly am, to have the freedom that I have. So just wanted to take a moment. I know Monday is Memorial Day, but lots of us are going to have a 3-day weekend. We're going to be out camping, doing things. So just take the time to remember why you have a 3-day weekend. Thank you guys all for coming in. It's good to see you. Eve Hickam is here. Thank you so much for coming, hun. Prettier Cessor is here. We've got Sarah Suspicious, and we got Hair Curlers and Crime, the best name on the YouTube streets. Rhonda is here. Thank you guys so much for coming in. Please thank my moderators for always coming in. I appreciate you guys so much. So, Kyron's case is just really sad. We are here 15 years later, and it's just so hard to think about that. A mother and a father, Desiree Young, Kyron Horman have not known where their son is for 15 years. It is so, so sad. We're going to be going over a lot of information. Lots of people that are new to following Kyron's case usually have a lot of questions. If you have a questions, put it, put your question in chat. I will, if I see it, I will try to get to it. Today, I just wanted to spend some time revisiting Kyron's case. I'm going to be doing an all-day live on June 4th, 2025, because that is the day of Kyron's anniversary of his disappearance date. And I want to honor him and bring awareness to him by having that all-day live. I have already posted it up and put up the thumbnail, so please click the notification if you are interested in sitting here with me throughout the day. I usually start around noon and end anywhere from 6 to 8 p.m., just depending on how many people I have in chat and how the live is going, how much information. Honestly, I could probably go a full 48 hours with all of the information that I've collected in Kyron's case. I've been working on it for many, many years. I used to work on this case with Terri Horman's son. Terri Horman is the stepmother that was last seen. Kyron, she was the last known person to be with Kyron. Sorry. I do want to talk about June 1st. There's an event going on. Desiree Young, Kyron's mom, is throwing. The event's name is For the Love of Kyron, and she will be starting that event on June 1st at 7 p.m. It is going to be sharing photos and videos and information about Kyron. Some of his family members will be there. Desiree says this will be in Portland to honor Kyron for the 15-year mark. Please come out and support our mission to find him and bring him home. It is a candlelight vigil, and they are going to be having flameless candles provided there. They're going to have pocket hugs, pins with Kyron's face on it, bracelets for Kyron, flyers for Kyron, all of those kinds of things there at this event. I will be going there to this event. My admin, I believe, is also coming, and we're excited to go and be there to support Desiree, Kane, and Kyron. And I'm also going to be, I actually just heard from her right before this live. I'll be meeting up with the KATU news reporter to do my interview before this event is when we're going to be getting together. So I'm super excited for that because, like I said, I have researched Kyron's case for a very long time, and I'm very excited to sit down, talk with a news reporter about Kyron's case, and, looking from Kyron's case as part of the community's perspective on how I feel about Kyron's case. There are so many layers. That is the problem with Kyron's case. That's why so many people get lost in Kyron's case when they talk about it. That's why a lot of misinformation gets spread by people that cover Kyron's case, that want to talk about Kyron and put awareness out for him as they're doing lives or videos here on the YouTube streets and many other places. Especially this time of year when it's coming up to the date that he disappeared, and also his birthday's in September. So for the next few months, you might actually see a lot of Kyron. And, it frustrates me because I sit and I watch other people cover Kyron's case. So very thankful that they are bringing awareness for Kyron. And that is what the most important thing. But I also get frustrated at the same time when I see misinformation being put out there, because in the beginning, there were times that were being talked about by law enforcement and in early news reports. But as time goes on in a case, those times and those time stamps and timelines can change, and they can change drastically. And if you're not paying attention and you're not really digging deep into this case, you can miss all of those very important things that have changed from the very beginning until now, 15 years later. I just love talking about Kyron. I love talking about his case. I love bringing awareness. I love the fact that me and my team have worked so hard and debunking rumors and misinformation in Kyron's case, and really took the time to know it to the point where we can talk about it and know what we talk about are facts. After doing over a year of case studies on several other people that my team thought could have been a person of interest at any one point, because there was already so many people out there pointing fingers at Terri Horman and her friend Dede Spicher, that I didn't want to focus on them right away. I wanted to focus on other possibilities because Terri and Dede had never been arrested. But after talking with Detective Tabor, after doing my case studies, Detective Tabor is the one who works on Kyron's case now. After speaking with him, doing those case studies not leading anywhere ever, and then actually being told by Detective Tabor that I pretty much wasted my time on a lot of these case studies. And he was very appreciative that I had taken the time to dig really deep into Kyron's case. But shortly after our conversation, my focus shifted on Terri and Dede and the information that I have been able to find, even information that I was able to provide Detective Tabor at one point. He just couldn't believe I found that information, and was very thankful that I was able to put some puzzle pieces together. And it was something that him and other detectives and an FBI agent could look at and go over and find out, you know, where that information stood in this case, because it connected Terri, Dede, and this landscaper, this landscaper that had been hired to hurt Kane. And I was able to connect the dots and them all knowing each other long before this landscaper was ever even hired by Terri Horman. So it was a huge piece. But I'm really glad to be here today. I love answering questions in Kyron's case. I do want to just go over just a timeline of June 4th for anybody that doesn't know, because the timeline can get really sketchy. If you haven't read the book, Boy Missing, The Search for Kyron Horman, written by Rebecca Morris, it's an amazing way to start your journey and learning about Kyron's case. The perspective comes from Kyron's mom, Desiree Young, who currently works for law enforcement, teaching law enforcement how to handle family members of missing persons, and teach law enforcement, just how to talk to them, how to deal with them, how to have interviews with them, because Desiree Young really felt like the detective that talked to Terri Horman in the very beginning dropped the gun, ruined it all, and that's one of the reasons why Terri Horman stopped talking. She works all across the United States. And when Desiree Young speaks, I listen. She would never spread misinformation in Kyron's case. She has let out a lot of different information over the years about Kyron's case. Most recently, over the summer, bombshells in Kyron's case went off. One of them being that there are pictures that exist of Kyron after leaving the school on burner phones that Dede Spicher and Terri Horman used on June 4th, 2010, the day that Kyron disappeared, which is huge. And it has changed all of Kyron's case, because now we know that law enforcement, the FBI, the new district attorney are all working to digitize Kyron's case, and they are compiling it all together, the entire case, for the FBI to look at. And then once they're done looking at it, they're handing it over to the BAU for a behavioral analysis, which is huge, because we know right now, pushing forward in Kyron's case, it's a nobody case. So to have the behavioral analysis is huge in a nobody case. And they're going over the entire thing, not just the DA's office, not just Multnomah County Sheriff's Office and the Gresham Police Office that is working with them, but the FBI and the BAU. This is, I mean, we've already had so many agencies working on Kyron's case over the past 15 years, but now knowing, what is that? We have the DA's office, he's got people, so that's one, Multnomah County, Gresham, the FBI, we have 5 different huge agencies working on Kyron's case as they are compiling all of it together and looking at it from beginning to end, all over again, going through everything. That's very exciting for Kyron's case, because I do believe in all of the information they have been able to collect over the last 15 years. They're going to look at this again and go, damn, not only have we missed some stuff, but we can make some arrests. And what's really amazing is that the FBI pushes forward. Dede Spicher got immunity, and it was a messed up immunity. We know that a DA gave her immunity, did not use the immunity right. She didn't do anything. She pled the fifth for over 50 questions given to her during a deposition. She gave out no information except for phone calls, emails, and text messages between her and Terri Horman, and then led police to these burner phones that the new information has came off of back in 2010. But the immunity was given to her in Oregon State, and now that the FBI is taken over, that immunity means nothing. Absolutely nothing. If the FBI charges Dede and Terri, or charges Terri, they are also able to charge Dede, because that immunity deal will mean nothing. Nothing. It's just so exciting to me, okay? I'm sorry. Maybe sometimes I shouldn't get so excited about a missing child's case, and I don't mean it to sound like in that way. It's all the time and effort that I've put into working on his case to finally see like big movement, huge movement in his case, to me is so very exciting. So to just get to the timeline a little bit, let's see, right after this is Kyron Horman. Kyron Horman disappeared on June 4th, 2010. And if you have any information about his disappearance, any information about Dede Spicher or Terri Horman, please call the Multnomah Sheriff's Office, Multnomah County Sheriff's Office. The tip line phone number is 503-988-0560. Kyron Horman disappeared from Portland, Oregon, from his school, Skyline Elementary. He was attending a science fair there with his stepmother and his baby sister. At 8:15 in the morning, he arrives at the science fair with his stepmother, Terri Horman, and his baby sister. And Terri took Kyron out of his chaperone groups to walk with him by herself to look at the science fair projects. Kane said that they went to a few classes and left earlier than expected. At 8:45, this is the last picture that was taken of Kyron. Desiree says it's time-stamped, even though Terri would have you believe that she took this picture at 8:45 a.m. in the morning. Desiree has said different.
That some people thought that maybe the picture had been taken before.
Nope, I know for sure, 100%. The picture was taken in the school. It's GPS, it's confirmed, it's verified. We know exactly what time she took the picture, where she was at, and it's confirmed with technology. So she was in the school at 8:45 taking that photo of Kyron in front of his exhibit. I know that she left the school, she left with Kyron, and we have eyewitnesses that place them outside the school en route to the truck. It's from that point where it gets unknown.
As a GPS location, and she is saying that she knows that Kyron left the school with Terri Horman. Before we get into that, like I said, this picture is taken at 8:45, and between 8:45 and 8:50. After this picture was taken, Terri, Kyron, and the baby walked through the parking lot of the school, walking to the Horman truck that was parked on Skyline Boulevard. Witnesses were the bus driver, Carson, Kyron's friend, and Carson's grandma and his baby sister. And there were multiple eyewitnesses. These are just the ones that we know about. Carson even testified before the grand jury about talking to Kyron as they walked through the parking lot to leave the school. Terri, on the other hand, said she left the school closer to 9 a.m. with the baby and said that she stood in the hallway and watched Kyron go to class, but he never made it to class. She said the last thing that she remembered seeing was the back of his head. At 10 a.m. in the morning, Kyron was marked absent. The teacher thought that he had a doctor's appointment, so there was no reason for concern to call home and report his absence. And that's normally what a school would do. They would call home and say, hey, Kyron wasn't here today. We marked him absent. Hope everything okay. But because of this doctor appointment that Terri Horman told Kyron's teacher he had that day, there was no automatic call home. And we now know there was never a doctor's appointment. At 3:30 in the afternoon, Kyron doesn't get off of the bus, and he has been missing for over 6 hours. 6. That's a lot of time. We know when a child goes missing, you got to start looking into things immediately. We know that if you're not looking for that child within the first couple of hours, that there's something huge there. There's like the, detective said in one of the clips that I showed at the very beginning of this, she said that they really felt like they dropped the ball here because they just don't know, what to do. He's already been gone for 6.5 hours. I mean, how do you find a child that's been gone? And his school is right outside of a rainforest. And Kyron doesn't live in an area where there's a house right next to one another. He lives on 5 acres of land next to a rainforest in a very rural mountain area. When Terri left the school, she drove to a Fred Meyer store. She said that she wanted to purchase Tylenol for the baby's earache. And she talked to a security guard there and asked him where the Tylenol was. Why wouldn't Terri Horman know where the Tylenol was when she was at the grocery store that she normally shopped for their groceries, for their household items? I believe that she talked to the security guard to put her there and give her an alibi and try to create a timeline. And the baby had already taken antibiotics for her earache, and Desiree and Kane had said that her ear was no longer hurting. So stopping at that Fred Meyer's is a very strange stop. Even though, let's see, she leaves that Fred Meyer's on Embry Road to go to another Fred Meyer's over 10 minutes away on Walker Road there in Portland. She purchases items. The book Boy Missing talks about these items, not in specifics of what they are, but that she had purchased items. These items were never found, even though Ellie wanted to know where they were. And she was Terri Horman was never able to produce any of the items that law enforcement asked her about that she had purchased that day. Terri Horman has tried to convince people that there was a shortage. Well, there was a shortage on Tylenol products, but there wasn't, what is the word I'm looking for? It wasn't all gone. Not all the Tylenol was gone. There was a small shortage, but she tried to convince everybody that there was a shortage on Tylenol, and that she couldn't find it anywhere. Although she goes from one Fred Meyer's to another Fred Meyer's, very long distance. She could have stopped 100 other places to stop and try to get pain medicine for the baby. At the second Fred Meyer, she runs into an acquaintance that manages the gym that Terri goes to. She shows her a picture of Kyron from the science fair. It was raining that day, and the baby was supposed to be sick, but she stood out in the rain with the baby to stop and show this woman a picture of Kyron, once again, I believe, to create an alibi. And this wasn't a normal encounter. Her and this woman were not good friends. They were only acquaintances. You know, even the woman has went out and talked about it on the public or in the public and talked about how it was just a very strange interaction, and that she was trying to hurry the conversation up so that the baby could get out of the rain. Terri then goes to the cleaners in the same shopping center as that second Fred Meyer's, leaving the baby in the car, which is very suspicious to me. And at one point she says that she parked right outside of the dry cleaners. And in another statement on the Dr. Phil show, she says that she parked to the side. I don't know why she would leave the baby in the car. Was Kyron sitting with baby Sissy? Was there somebody else in the vehicle or in the truck at the time with her? Because law enforcement did come out and say that witnesses had came forward that said that somebody was in or around Terri Horman's truck outside of Skyline Elementary School that morning. That person has never publicly been identified, but witnesses did see someone in or around the truck that morning at Skyline Elementary. So is she leaving the baby in the car with this person, or this person and Kyron? I don't see Terri or anybody for that instance, or, you know, leaving an 18-month-old baby in a truck by themselves. And then why go to the second Fred Meyers? Or why go to that first Fred Meyers if you know you're going to the second Fred Meyers to go to the dry cleaners anyway? That doesn't make sense to me. Why not bypass the first Fred Meyers and go straight to the second one? Again, creating an alibi. She left the first Fred Meyers with a receipt timestamped for 9/12. Like I said, many other places for her to go in between those Fred Meyers if she was really looking for Tylenol. She's done at about 10:10 a.m. going to these Fred Meyers stores and the dry cleaners and everything. And then Terri said that she went to a Michael's craft store and an Albertsons. And we know now that she didn't do those things because of credit cards and cell phone pings from things that Desiree Young has came out and said about the Michael's store. Terri then says that she drove around to soothe the baby for a while, driving on very rural roads. Also being seen off of Newberry Road, Rocky Point by Fred Hall. And when she was on Newberry Road, it was a woman that said that she saw Terri there. Terri said she was there and she thought she was changing a diaper. She just said, I thought I was changing a diaper. So she's seen on Newberry Road. She's seen by Fred Hall up on Rocky Point, which is a really high mountain. I mean, it's usually foggy up there. It's pretty high up in elevation. Just sitting in her truck, parked at like a little gate, and that's all that he saw. And he thought it was really suspicious because not very many people go up there because it's way out in the middle of nowhere. And it was close to his property. And he wanted to know, you know, who was sitting out there. So he paid good attention and was able to come out and said that he saw a redhead woman sitting in a truck or a woman sitting in a white truck. And then there was another man that was driving to work that sees her pull out onto Highway 30, and she's coming down off of Rocky Point Road. So those two eyewitness accounts kind of go together. She's seen at the top of Rocky Point Road, up at the top of Rocky Point, and then you drive this long, windy, rural road all the way down. It puts you out on Highway 30, and then she's seen again pulling out there. At 11:39, Terri says that she went to the gym, but the gym clocks her in at 12:20. Plus, who says, I went to the gym at 11:39? Why not say I went to the gym at 11:35 or 11:40? But we know because the gym itself clocks her in at 12:20, and she's not even there for 15 or 20 minutes, according to Desiree. She's showing pictures of Kyron to people, and then somebody at the gym reported to law enforcement that Terri had a gash on her leg. Terri told that person that she dropped a weight on her leg. And when I hear the word gash, I do not, I do not see gash being like a bruise that you would have or a scrape if it's a sharp weight. You know what I mean? That's been dropped on you. A gash to me is something bloody, something deep, something, a gash. And she had that when she went to the gym, and it looked like a fresh gash. So what had Terri Horman been doing earlier to have a gash on her leg? At about 1 o'clock, Terri goes home. Kane's home around 2 o'clock. While Terry's home, she's sending information to Desiree that's a little bit unusual, emailing her, trying to talk with her. They didn't normally do those things. That's very out of character for Terri and her to be communicating with each other throughout the day. Usually photos of Kyron would be loaded on a thumbnail and sent when he goes to visit with Desiree. But to this day, Terri is sending her pictures of Kyron from the science fair, and she is trying to communicate with Desiree Young. And then they do not get along. They do not like each other. Desiree can't stand Terri and had never, ever liked her. Terri was in Kyron's life because Kane cheated on Desiree Young while Desiree was pregnant. So, with Terri. So, Desiree did not like her at all. It was a very strange thing. And like I said, Kane comes home about 2 o'clock, and at 3:30, Kyron does not get off of the bus and has been missing for more than 6 hours. I just wanted to go over that timeline. And a lot of people have asked about this bus driver. If the bus driver saw Kyron leave with Terri, why didn't that bus driver say something when they came to look for him on the bus? Like, I saw him leave with you, Terri, earlier this morning. Well, Jennifer, the bus driver, witnessed Kyron leaving the school with Terri, had a substitute bus driver later that afternoon, and that is why. So now that I'm done doing this, I am going to come up. I want to look through and see if everybody has questions, which I'm sure you guys do, because I know people hear other things about the timeline for the day. So I want to see if I can answer any questions. Kelly says, I would love to pick Desiree's mind. It comes to being an advocate and supporting families. I just have so much respect for her. She's amazing, and she's never stopped raising money to look for her kid, looking for Kyron, taking donations, and, putting out searches. She's done so many searches. I honestly believe that besides the big initial search that law enforcement did from the time that Kyron came up missing until they're done over at Sauvie Island, that Desiree, after that, within years and years of searches, has done almost or as much as law enforcement, if not more, searches for Kyron, using dogs, search dogs, cadaver dogs, sense dogs from around the country, and even some amazing dog searchers from New Mexico that came and helped join searches at times that found evidence on those searches. Let me see. Mixborn says that 15 years, that's just torture for Kyron's poor family. My thoughts and prayers are with them. Thank you so much. It's very hard to get a lot of people in here to bring awareness for Kyron. Like right now, I see that there's 44 people watching. And just for instance, if I'm doing a Michael Vaughn case or another, like if I were doing something on a popular child, I would probably have over 100 people in here. That's how old Kyron's case is. And it's really hard to bring awareness for a child that's been missing so long, because people will and do forget about cases after, a long time. Let's see. Just looking through questions. Renee says that she's listening. She's stuck in traffic. I'm sorry you're stuck in traffic on a Friday. What would be the motive? I have one that could be, but wondering everyone else's thoughts. I will tell you what Terri Horman's motive was. It was about money, and it was about custody of her daughter. Kane and Terri had already been fighting. They had already been talking about divorce. Terri was not working and she was unemployed, and Kane had a job still, making over $14,000 a month. She knew if they divorced that Kiara was probably going to go to Kane, because Oregon State isn't too hip about separating siblings, and Kyron, Kane had custody of. So there's 2 siblings in the house that the court probably isn't going to want to split up. Plus, she didn't even have a job to begin with. She had tried several times to get Kyron over to Desiree's house, but Kane would not allow it. Calling her sometimes in the middle of the night, telling her to come get Kyron. Kane didn't allow it. He had custody of his son. Why would he just want to give up custody of his son? What person does that when you have custody of your child? Nobody, ever. And people talk a lot of smack about Kane for not allowing Kyron to go back to his mom's. But when Desiree got super sick and ended up going up to Canada for her kidney infections and stuff to get treatment, when she came back, Kyron was really settled in with Kane, and they agreed that, you know, he was doing good and that he could stay with Kane. And then later on in a custody battle, he won. And I think it really just came down to the fact that Kane made a lot of money. But to get back to why Terri would do something like that, there weren't just one, there were multiple, 3 murder for hires against Kane, one being the Friday prior to Kyron's disappearance. There was a life insurance policy that was worth a lot of money. Terri Horman has scammed people for money and done some really crooked stuff for money. She was very, very motivated by money, and she used her sexuality to get whatever it was that she wanted. And when the murder for hires didn't work, she focused on Kyron. If she could get rid of Kyron and they split up, she could still get Kiara. And if she had taken out Kane, Kyron would automatically go back to Desiree, and she would have her daughter to herself. What's really strange about this all is that 3 weeks after Kyron's disappearance, Kane goes into hiding with their daughter, finds out about the murder for hire plot, files for a divorce, and she is told during this custody battle, you talk to us about Kyron, what happened that day, because she stopped talking after getting a high-profile lawyer. You talk to us about what happened that day, and we'll allow you to have visits with your daughter, but you'll have to do X, Y, Z. She had to go through counseling. She had to do a lot of different things, okay? She refused to talk about Kyron, and in the last 15 years has never, ever seen her daughter because she was asked to talk about Kyron. Huge red flag. The immunity deal is no longer valid if the FBI takes over, because then it's a federal thing and not an Oregon State where she got her immunity. Renee wants to know, Sam, any idea what was documented on those phones, on the burner phones? This is just groundbreaking. We know that there are pictures of Kyron on that phone. Desiree Young says there's a picture of it. We don't know what it is. Could it be a burial site? That's what some of us believe. We don't know what it is. If it was a picture of Kyron unalive, I am sure somebody would have been arrested by now. So I do not think that that's what's on the phone. I know that there is communication between Terri and Dede on those phones, because Desiree talks about that when she's on her interview with Doug Bishop in early summer of 2024. So the information on these burner phones that was taken off of these burner phones a few years back is groundbreaking, because this is a big piece of evidence here. And that has what sparked up, new interest from the FBI. And although they've had these phones for years and years, new technology that came out is the reason why that information was finally found on those phones. Exactly. Another strong mama that will never stop. She will never stop. I admire her so much, and for what she does for other missing persons, missing kids, and the way she works with family, the way she's teaching law enforcement right now. It's very, it's so inspiring, Although these tragic things happen, sometimes you can find some of the most amazing advocates, when they have learned to advocate for their own family member or their own missing child, they become amazing advocates for other people. And I do, yes, hair curlers and crime believe that this was a premeditated, pre-planned thing. Yeah, everybody's screaming alibi. Thank you so much, Eve. I think it's just my calling to work on missing children. And I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for Kyron Horman's case and the pandemic, actually, because I did a lot of studying during the pandemic when I had to stay home. And who goes to the gym for 15 or 20 minutes? Well, Terri Horman. And all of these different places to pretty much buy nothing. And the only thing that she does buy, she can't find and she can't produce to law enforcement. Yeah, her timeline for the day, she lies about her timeline. Nope, nothing she does matches up. It's so obvious the fact that she is only at the gym for 20 minutes, all to be seen. Yep, all to be seen. All of these places where she goes, all of these people that she runs into, showing this picture of Kyron like it's, his proof of life. Yes, and the dogs are not cheap. They are very expensive. Now, some people want to come and help Desiree, but most of them do get paid, and she has to use this money that she has been earning and people have donated to her by, she does car washes and other things. Kane Horman throws events at the Kyron Horman Foundation that he put together to raise money to do these searches, to do things for Kyron. And he even does kits for children, doing fingerprints, hair, like all of these, amazing things for children, in case they were to ever come up missing, which, by the way, if you have young children, if you have grandchildren, talk to your kids about having your grandkids get kits. Or if you're an adult, you can put your information, your DNA into, like an ancestry type thing, to where if anything were to ever happen to you, they have your DNA. That kind of stuff is very important. I believe in it. I think everybody should do it. And there's been haters out there, I call them Terri supporters, that say that Desiree doesn't spend her money, that she just spends the money doing what she wants. It's so untrue. I mean, the fact that Desiree Young works with law enforcement and does this all across the United States and even works closely with the FBI, she would look like a fool if she was out there spending donation money on things that she wants. And that's how far these Terri supporters will go trying to attack the mother of a missing child. Hello, Pam. Thank you for coming in. Okay, let me see. Yes, giving up on the daughter screams guilty. What mother gives up their 18-month-old daughter just because they don't want to talk about what happened that day? Terri Horman has never searched for Kyron. She's never put her foot on the ground and searched for Kyron ever. Ever. Let me see. I'm sorry if you guys hear my neighbor's dogs. They have been going crazy the past couple of weeks, nonstop barking. It's ridiculous. McSporin, they are using the information from the burner phones, the photos and everything that will have GPS. And they have been using geofencing and, making, the only way to describe it is, say, like, you do a 10 by 10 area looking for him. Then you move over and do another 10 by 10, so geofencing they are using to find Kyron. They have done recent searches. They looked all throughout 2024. And I really believe it's because of this new information from the phone. I mean, and it's really important to know that those searches are being done by Multnomah County Sheriff's Office, which is huge because the last searches that I know that they did were back in 2017 when the grand jury told them to go back to Sauvie Island. And the rest of the searches were all Desiree. So it's huge that Desiree is no longer doing searches, but Multnomah County is, and they're using that geofencing because there is data linked to pictures on your phones. Yes, her sidekick, Dede Spicher, was missing from her job at the same time, the same unaccounted time as Terri Horman. We are going to focus on Terri Horman today. We can talk a little bit about Dede next week. I'm definitely we're going to talk more about Dede. But I want to talk about Terri today, but she did have a sidekick. It was her friend. Dede Spicher was the one who led law enforcement to the burner phones that were found. Dede thought that she had destroyed those burner phones, but law enforcement found them back in 2010 and has had them this entire time. Yes, and why do you need burner phones? And that's not the only set of burner phones they had. That was on June 4th. They had burner phones towards the end of the month. Dede Spicher goes and stays with Terri Horman for 11 days, and the entire time they were there, they used burner phones to communicate with each other, and they would go out back and talk because they didn't want law enforcement, because they thought and knew that their cars were bugged, and they didn't want law enforcement to hear the conversations. I'm just saying right now, if I'm a stepmom, I have nothing to do with my stepchild, coming up missing. Law enforcement can listen to any damn conversation I'm having. Why in the hell don't you want law enforcement listening to you? And they will tell you, oh, it's because law enforcement can take what you say and they can twist it around. They can make you look guilty. Well, you've got two grown-ass women sitting acting like they're having a slumber party, sitting in their underwear, eating cookies, while Terri Horman is sexting Terri Horman, or Kane Horman's, her husband's, high school friend, sexting. This is the end of June, 4 weeks after Kyron comes up missing. These two women are sitting in this house doing all of these things, but they're not looking for Kyron. Why aren't they looking for Kyron? I just don't get it. And I don't get it when the people want to talk about that, Terri and Dede don't have anything to do with it. I mean, you can have your own opinion, and that is fine. And I don't care if anybody believes that, but so much points to them. It's so hard for me not to point the fingers directly to them. And it's not like me to point the fingers at any family member for a child missing, but she did so much. And those burner phones were bought in cash with fake names. So not only are you communicating on burner phones, but you're buying them with cash and fake names. And there were multiple burner phones. Terri Horman down in California still uses burner phones to this day, people. And I've been told by Terri Horman's ex, Joseph Cristobal, that her and Dede still talk to one another in code over the internet and with burner phones. That she'll go out and sit in her car to make phone calls on those burner phones. Ink's Hideout, thank you for coming in, hun. Good to see you. And yes, the Kyron Horman Foundation has done a lot for Michael Vaughn. And yeah, Kelly is saying that she will forever be grateful to them for what they have done to help Michael and his family. Okay. Yeah, unless you're up to no good, you do not need them. You do not need burner phones. So again, this is Kyron Horman. And now I want to remove this because I want to show you guys pictures of, this is Terri Horman at a press conference a week after Kyron's disappearance. Many people in the public, in the community here in the Pacific Northwest, the Pacific, what do we call this? The Portland, Vancouver metro area here in the Pacific Northwest. Washington and Oregon, Columbia River kind of divides, but our communities became one when Kyron went missing, and many people see Terri during this press conference. And she tries so very hard to look and act like she's not okay. And it threw up a lot of red flags for thousands of people that got on the internet and talked about, oh my God, did you see her during that press conference? Why was she hanging all over Desiree? Oh my God. Desiree Young said she thought God was going to strike her dead right there on the spot. She couldn't believe that Terri was hanging all over her. They are not close at all. She did not look okay. She looked completely stressed out. Yes, she is a step monster. And I hate to use that word, but this isn't a perfect example of a step monster. There are great step parents out there, my husband being one of them. I have 3 children, 2 of which are not of his own, but you would never be able to tell the difference. We don't even use the word step in our house. But she really was a step monster. She looks and acts so guilty. This is one of her mug shots. This is another one of her mug shots. This is her hanging on Desiree. And this is Dede Spicher walking out of the courthouse. When I see pictures of Dede Spicher, something in my gut talks to me and just says something's not right. The way she walks out of this courtroom and smirks is a lot of people, including myself, do not like the little can't touch me smirk on her face. And she truly has acted like a very evil person. When you see some really strange and unusual posts by her on Twitter, like this picture here, just gives me the creeps. But we're not going to keep talking about pictures and how whatever. I just want to show those to you guys. But I do want to just show you guys a few things. For instance, let's go back to the school. The parking lot that goes out towards Skyline Boulevard. This is the parking lot. That is the sidewalk right there to the right that Terri Horman walked with Kyron and Kyron's baby sister down to Skyline Boulevard to get to the Horman truck. It is on the east side of the school. And this here is where the buses park. Up along this building on the left side of that white line. Well, actually, it's a yellow line. It just looks white in this. To the left, the buses were parked there. Kyron's bus driver was sitting in the bus up high. We all know up high, a bus driver. So she could see the parking lot very well, even though people were coming and going for the science fair or whatnot. When she's seeing Kyron leaving with Terri, I talk about the bus driver a lot because to me, it's a huge witness. She knows Kyron. She picks him up and drops him off every single day. She knows him, his mannerism, the way he dresses, when he wears a coat, when he doesn't. You know, she knows the parents of Kyron because, you know, you get familiar with the children that you have on your bus. My husband's cousin is a bus driver. I know several other bus drivers that have all told me the same. They know their kids. So the fact that Jennifer came forward and said, I saw Kyron leaving, walking through the parking lot with Terri that morning is huge to me. And this door, you know, it's a very small parking lot. And this door here on the side is the door that Terri Horman, they now know, walked out of. That's kind of the view that the bus driver would have. And then I want to show this. Let me see. Here, right where my car is parked, right where that silver Rogue is parked, is where Terri Horman's truck was parked on Skyline Boulevard the day that Kyron went missing. She had used Kane's truck the day that Kyron came up missing and the day before. It's not unusual for her to be driving Kane's truck, but usually the only time she ever drove Kane's truck is when she was doing recycling. And she told Kane, well, I need to borrow the truck so I can put a science fair project in the truck because it's not going to fit in my Mustang. Well, the Mustang that she had at the time, I've seen those cars. They have giant trunks. It was on a poster board. It would have fit perfectly fine inside her car. So she takes the science fair project the day before to school in the truck. She says she's got to pick up the science fair project the day that Kyron disappears. But guess what? The science fair project was supposed to stay at school until the last day of school, which was a week later. And she never picked up the science fair project to begin with. It never did come home. So why did she need the truck? And why did she need the truck for 2 days in a row? Terri Horman's Mustang was seen driving around on all those rural roads around their house in her Mustang the week prior to Kyron's disappearing. Terri scouting much for a place, looking for somewhere to put Kyron, an unalive Kyron. Again, this is just the parking lot. This is kind of the view looking up to where the bus would have been up there. These are just videos that I've done. I've done so many videos on Kyron, the school, location, searches, you name it. You can always pick through my videos and my lives that I have done on both Dede, Terri, court documents and everything. But this is just a little view of the front of the school and to show we're standing here. This is important, you guys. She parked that there for a reason. Hold on one second, you guys. Hello?
Hi, Samantha. It's Shelby with K2.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Hey, I'm so sorry for my sporadic texting.
No, you're fine. If you want to get together on June 1st up there at Kyron's event, that's good with me.
So, I do. I'm thinking we want to meet with you beforehand. Unfortunately, I won't be there, but someone will. And so I'm just kind of trying to schedule because we're doing a report on that day. We have a special coming out the 4th, and then we also are airing something on the 3rd, and you're just so knowledgeable, and I really want to include you in our coverage on the 3rd. I'm double booked for that day, and so I'm just going to have someone else meet up with you and interview you. We're going to have a crew there, so I will figure out who exactly is going to meet with you, and I will have them contact you.
Okay, that sounds good. I don't care who I talk to.
I just always hate when I'm like, oh, I plan on meeting somebody because I really did want to meet you. It's just not something I can get out of. So I'm really looking forward to chatting with you. And I know Desiree do you know if Kane's going to be there? We've already spoken with him. I was just I didn't know if you've heard of anything or if you've spoken with Desiree.
Okay, I'm back. I did not realize that I had not muted. I thought I clicked the mute and it didn't mute, and then I got a message saying that I wasn't muted. But as you guys heard, I am getting together with KATU News. You guys can hear me now though, right? I'm seeing, yeah, I can see. Okay, I'm unmuted. Never mind. Yeah, I wouldn't have blasted her like that, right? Anyway, I forgot where I was even at because I just got done talking with her and she got me all like sidetracked. But anyway, oh yeah, so back to this that is on the screen now. What is important? Terry's car was parked, or truck was parked out there on Skyline Boulevard. What's important about that? It's underneath like this little hill. So when you're standing in the playground area, you cannot see my car that's parked in between these two trees. Kane's truck would have been even taller, but that hill is such a steep ravine right there that I don't even think you would have been able to see that truck either. So what am I doing? Let me see. Okay. So yeah, you cannot see my vehicle there from this area here at the playground. And then I walk up these set of stairs and go further up to get a higher, you know, okay, if you were standing up here, I'm just thinking like parents coming in and out of the school with their kids for their science projects, you know, the science fair, would they be able to see her truck? And no, you cannot see my car down underneath those trees down there from even way up high either. So she was invisible parked down there to anybody that was in front of the school, wandering around with the kids, playing with the kids down there on the playground. And I really believe that's why. I just don't understand the guts that she had. Like, that's some big balls to like walk out of the school, the side of the school, and then walk right in front of the bus driver, right through the parking lot, thinking what? Later on, Terri Horman tried very hard to say that they had to, her and Kyron had to go back to the truck, get his backpack, get his coat because they forgot it, and his books, and bring it into the school. Now, that's what she tells people. But if you show up at school, and she even says, we didn't even enter the school. We just turned around, went back to the truck to go get his books and his backpack. So it's 8:15 in the morning. You arrive at the school. You walk just in that area I just showed you through the gate. You're coming in. You realize you ain't got it. You quickly turn around. You go get it and come back. You are still at the door entering the school even before the bus drivers get there. Terri Horman will try to spin and say that the bus driver saw her and Kyron when they went back to the truck for that backpack and books, although the bus driver wouldn't have even been back at the school or at the school at that time, if that makes sense. Yes, she absolutely did think that she was invisible. Question: is there any public info on where the burner phones were dumped and where Dede brought the cops? Yes, there is. The burner phones were off of Germantown Road and Cornelius Pass Road in a field. Dede Spicer's work, where she worked at Westwind Farms, is right off of Germantown Road on Old Germantown Road. Dede Spicer's work, Dede Spicer's parents, Dede Spicer's condominium, Dede Spicer's aunt's house was all looked. They took her cell phone, they took her computer, they took everything. And this is what Kyron Horman told a news reporter about Terri leaving the school. Her story changed several times. You know, many people have spoken about how law enforcement really honed in on Terri way too soon, that honing in on her too soon was a mistake. Well, the only reason why they honed in on Terri was because of Terri, because of her inconsistencies, because of her lies, because she changed her story multiple times, even in one day. Listen to what the parents have to say on Oprah.
I'm suspicious of her.
First polygraph results came back. She was very vocal with everyone in the entire house about how it went, how that she failed. And then the actions after that, and the discussions that we had trying to understand what happened that day, she would change her story daily, if not more than that. I mean, every time you talk to her, it was a little bit different about, well, here's what happened that day. And it, you know, you kind of look at her going, you know, we have a major crisis here and you don't even have a story that's believable at this point.
She changed her story multiple times a day. Always changing her story. You have to follow the evidence, and evidence pointed at Terri. You have to follow. We all know you're going to be a person of interest if you are a family member of a missing child. If you are a mother, a father, a stepfather, a stepmother, you are the person of interest until they can count you out. Okay? Desiree, Kane, and Tony all passed their polygraph tests. Terri Horman didn't pass one. She failed number 2, and she walked out on the 3rd. Bus driver was not the only witness. There were other witnesses that seen her leave. And she was the last known person to be seen with Kyron. Exactly. The retinol polygraph, yeah. It is really more accurate. But you know what? Even though lie detector tests, we know, can be passed, they can be failed, they can be inaccurate. They're mainly just used as a tool to find deceit. And they did find it in Terri. That 3rd polygraph that she walked out on, Terri, Tony, and Desiree had to beg her to even go take it and to talk to law enforcement. And she didn't even want to go do it.
I'm suspicious.
Oh, sorry. But they became suspicious, both Kane and Desiree, pretty much right away. One of the other things that, you know, when I say that Terri did not look for Kane or look for Kyron, and that's so suspicious to me. The other thing that is really suspicious is that Terri Horman posted fake flyers in her area in Roseburg.
Posters popping up around Terri Horman's Roseburg neighborhood. They show age progression photos that say Kyron was last seen with an unknown man.
Kyron's father, Kane, hopes people will ignore those posters popping up in the Roseburg area. The flyers carry the headline, "Find Kyron First." The information references a mysterious man the flyer says might be connected to Kyron's disappearance. Kyron's stepmom, Terri Horman, was reportedly seen handing out some of those flyers around her home, but the information on the flyers is not from law enforcement. Some of the flyers even had the wrong number for the Kyron Horman tip line. Kyron's father, Kane, hopes people realize what's going on around Terri Horman's Roseburg home.
From what I've seen so far, the flyers that are not law enforcement released information, to my knowledge, and the information on them in some cases may not even be correct. Hopefully ask people to ignore them for now.
Who posts fake flyers? Who does that? She started spinning the narrative immediately right after Kyron came up missing. And I'm not just talking about, I'm talking that next day. She is spinning the narrative that there's a guy from the 7-Eleven that was asking about schools near the 7-Eleven. She started talking about the janitor there at the school. She started talking about the groundskeeper there at the school. She started talking about Kyron wandering off. Hold on one second. Trying to find something that I want to show you guys. I know it's up here. Hold on. Here we go. Sorry. She spun the narrative about so many different things, and Desiree and Kane would come out like Kyron would never wander off. He wore great big glasses, very thick glasses. He was blind pretty much if he had his glasses off, and he still couldn't see very far, even with his glasses on. So he would get scared wandering too far off away from people. If that makes sense to you guys. He was a very timid, shy young man, and he would never wander off. That's just something that she spun, trying to come up with all of these different narratives about how Kyron came up missing. And then she was also in the comment section in certain newscasts. Yeah, let me just show you here.
It appears Terri Horman has been quietly making her own comments all along. ABC station KATU in Portland found postings they say they verified as Horman in the comment section of their website, including statements agreeing with supporters and others arguing with detractors, writing, "Wow, unless you know all the details, the stress, the worry, the pain, you have nothing to speak of. You're merely making assumptions. You have no facts, details, or knowledge to present. So please refrain from your accusation."
So instead of out looking for Kyron, she's on her computer. She's in these news comment section, looking to see what other people have to say about her, about Kyron's case. And when she sees people talking about her, she starts flipping out on them. And then there's emails about the doctor's appointment, for instance, that there is not one. There is no doctor's appointment. And this is being written June 5th of 2010, the day after Kyron came up missing. This is what Terri has decided she wants to do.
Terri knew suspicions settled on her, even writing, quote, "They are blaming me in the blogs. I just want to scream."
Terri, do you have anything to say? Do you have anything to say? You know where Kyron is. Yes or no?
She is the person everyone wants to talk. Kyron Horman's stepmother.
You tell the world something.
But while Terri Horman has remained silent in front of cameras, her fingers have not. These are excerpts from 2 emails that K2 News obtained, written by Terri to a source we will not reveal, sent on the day after Kyron vanished from Skyline School during that science fair. Now, investigators have said Terri is the last person to see Kyron, but this is what Terri wrote. "The teacher thought I said I was going to take Kyron with Kitty for a doctor's appointment. I said I was going to look at other exhibits. How do you mess that up?"
She wanted to say that the teacher thought she had said she was going to take Kyron with Kitty for a doctor's appointment. She had emailed the doctor or emailed the teacher the Friday before Kyron disappeared and said there was a doctor's appointment. She had written her a note in the middle of the week telling her, "Don't forget, Kyron has a doctor's appointment," and reminded her in person on the day that Kyron disappeared that there was a doctor's appointment. And we'll talk more about this doctor's appointment in just a second.
Coat and backpack were still at school. I left the school at 9, and he was seen with a man, chaperone, and 2 girls after I left.
Here she is spinning a narrative about a male chaperone that he was seen with, even though Terri Horman took him out of his chaperoned group to walk around with him that day so that they could all be by themselves. And then she talks about leaving his coat and his backpack at the school that day, which I believe she did on purpose, and so do many other people. It's even spoken in the book, Boy Missing, that backpack and coat were left at the school on purpose so she could spin this narrative later after Kyron disappeared. Well, look, I left his backpack and his coat at the school. If I would have left with Kyron to go to a doctor's appointment, I wouldn't have left the coat and backpack. I mean, she's already putting that in an email to a person the day after Kyron came up missing. And a shocking bit of information to give you about that coat and backpack is that Terri Horman, after she goes up to the school after 3:30 in the afternoon, when he doesn't get off the bus, she goes into the school, she grabs the backpack and the coat. When she ends up at home later that evening, she washed that backpack and jacket. And she washed every stitch of clothing that Kyron owned, from his closet, from his dressers, and including the dirty clothes and his bedding, everything, so that when scent dogs came, because Desiree Young talks about this at the Crime Fest Northwest in August of 2024, washed everything of Kyron's. And there wasn't a good scent for Kyron when they tried using the scent dogs.
There were no men on the chaperone list. That, and it was highly chaotic. Had to been 300 people running around, no coordination.
She's talking about 300 people being up at the school and that there were no no coordination going on at the school, that the school was chaotic. Again, the day after Kyron came up missing, she's spinning a narrative because she wants people to believe that because the school was chaotic and there were so many people and no sign-in sheets, anybody could have walked off with Kyron. But that's just not true. Kyron Horman has told us this is first of all, it's a tiny school. It may look big from the outside, but inside, it's a very small school. It's also in a very small community. All of the parents at the school knew each other. So if you talk about everyone there being at the school, Kane has even said everybody knew everybody. If anybody would have saw Kyron walk away with some stranger, somebody would have said something, done something, stopped it. You know what I mean? And they have said this was not a stranger abduction.
Reference to her daughter's doctor visit, not mentioned again in a follow-up email sent later that day. I didn't just drop him off. I spent time with him, took pictures, and he was in safe hands, I thought, as I watched him walk down the hall. Kids saw him after I left. Teacher put him as absent at 10 a.m. Someplace between 9 and 10 is when we think it happened. I haven't.
Sometimes between 9 and 10 is when we think it happened. She wants to say when we think that it happened, although she was the only one trying to spin this narrative. And she says she spent time with him, took pictures of him. So she's talking about these pictures again. She says kids saw him after she left. Had kids actually seen him after she left the school, her lawyer would have that information. Law enforcement would have that information. There is a news clip that you can see of Tanner Pomala saying that he saw Kyron without Terri. The law enforcement asked his parents and grandmother not to allow him to talk on the news, and they did anyway. I believe that law enforcement didn't want him to talk to the news because they could not corroborate Tanner's story. His timeline was off. Could you imagine hearing an 8-year-old little boy tell you when he saw Kyron, give you a specific time, How many 8-year-olds do you know that would be able to give you a very specific timing? You know for a fact that you can trust what this little boy is saying. I just think that there was no way to corroborate a story, or that something that they had either in a photograph, a video, or something from one of the other parents or something proved that Kyron was not seen during that time, because law enforcement has put out he was not seen after 8:50 a.m. in the morning.
Receipt showing I was checking out at Fred Meyer 7 miles away at 9:12 a.m. I went to another Fred Meyer looking for meds for Kitty they didn't have at the first Fred Meyer. Then I was trying to get Kitty to sleep in the truck for a few minutes, but no go, so off to the gym at 11:20, out at 12:20, home at 12:45, Kane home at 2, bus.
And here she tries to say she was at the gym at 11:20, out of the gym at 12:20, when she actually didn't even get to the gym until 12:20. She wasn't working out for an hour. She was only there for 15 or 20 minutes. She's clocking in at the gym with the gym's information, clocking her in at 12:20. But here she seems to know her timeline. Do you see? This is... you can see now the lies that she was spewing just the day after Kyron came up missing.
At 3:30. That was my day. They keep asking me. Now on my 5th interview with them. Terri went on to talk about Kyron's recent behavior. The past 2 weeks he's been acting really weird, staring off into space. Can't remember anything. Walks into...
Now she's trying to spin a narrative that something was wrong with Kyron, that he had been acting very weird, staring off into space. She even at one point said he was having seizures. Kane, Desiree, Tony, which is Kyron's stepdad, said that none of them had seen Kyron acting this way. So why does she want everybody to believe that he was acting strange? Because she wants everybody to believe he could wander off. So not only has she already spun this narrative that there's some strange chaperone at school that may have taken him, that his backpack and jacket were left at school, that the teacher misunderstood her about a doctor's appointment, but that he's on now acting strange. How many narratives can you spin the day after your stepson went missing? Why aren't you looking for Kyron, Terri? Why? Why are you writing emails to people, trying to throw out stories and narratives to people instead of looking for Kyron?
The room and then back out, stopping to stare and then move on. The doc thinks that he is having many seizures, and I made an appointment on Thursday for next Friday to have him checked out.
The night that Kyron disappeared, Desiree Young had to sign disclosures for law enforcement to look at Kyron's doctor's appointment and doctor's records. There was no doctor's appointment ever scheduled for Kyron, not for the Friday that he disappeared, and not the Friday that she mentions the next Friday. Nothing. And Kane didn't know anything about an appointment being set, but she had heard Terri talking about setting up a doctor's appointment for Kyron.
That contradicts what multiple sources have told K2, that in the days before the science fair, Terri informed Kyron's teacher he had an appointment that day, June 4th. That is why no one expected that he would be in class and why he was marked absent.
Is Desiree Young. There was never, and this is on her Facebook, there was never a doctor's appointment. She made the entire thing up, and we knew this from the first night he went missing, when I gave consent to get Kyron's doctor's records. So then she was questioned. She said it was the following week to try to cause confusion and appear legitimate. But the truth is, Kane, Tony, and I never saw anything wrong with Kyron, and it was all just a smokescreen to further confuse people so they didn't look at Terri for this. Like, maybe he would have walked out of the school on his own. All baloney, she says. Just for clarification, somebody asked Desiree, was there a doctor's appointment for the following week confirmed? And did Ms. Porter have paperwork that the doctor's office needed filled out? Because Terry started telling people that Ms. Porter had to fill out paperwork for the doctor's appointment and everything else. And Desiree says, no doctor's appointment, no paperwork. Ms. Porter had an email from Terri Horman excusing Kyron from class. Kyron left the classroom with Terri and walked out of the school. There would be no reason for Ms. Porter to question a parent or to think there was anything wrong. It was all Terry's fault that we are here today, her and her alone. Her and only her.
But it appears Terri Horman has been quietly making her own comments.
I already played that one. Yes, she thought that she was smart. She thought that she was going to be able to get away with this. Okay. I'm just going to read some comments, see if there's anything. All right, let me delete this one. I do have so much information for you guys. Let me see. Okay. Let's go over some Facebook posts by Desiree Young. Like I said, Desiree Young plays a huge role in navigating for her son. She advocates to the point where she doesn't leave any room whatsoever. I'm just going to pass through this because all this is about Terri Horman. Terri Horman posted a picture of Kyron with glasses. She tried claiming these glasses were a different set of glasses than Terri Horman had claimed they were. Nobody could really figure out why she was trying to spin this narrative that they were a different pair of glasses, and it's really confusing. So that's why I'm not going to take the time to explain all of that. But here are some more Facebook posts by Desiree. I already read this one about the doctor's appointment and the fact that there was no doctor's appointment, no paperwork. This was her talking about giving consent for the doctor's appointments that I just talked about. This one's very important to listen to. The article is completely biased and doesn't take into account any of the evidence or police information. The property owner at West Wind Farms, where Dede Spicher worked, not only yelled for Dede, she also called for her several times and called her cell phone. And then several employees searched for her on the property and nobody could locate Dede. In addition, several eyewitness accounts of Terri and Dede together blocking someone's driveway on Old Germantown Road during the time they were both unaccounted for. They were unloading stuff from one truck to another. To give you a visual, this road is a very rural road, and it was odd that a truck would block a gate to someone's driveway because they knew all of the neighbors. There's more to that I cannot share, but suffice it to say the article doesn't say anything. So witnesses saw Dede and Terri passing things from one truck to another on Old Germantown Road, and Dede's work is on Old Germantown Road. emails from Terri to Kyron's brother's stepmom. They both exchanged emails saying how much they hated both of my sons. So Desiree's son, Quinn, has a stepmom. And then we have stepmom Terri Horman of Kyron. Both of them were exchanging emails talking about the hatred that they had for Desiree's sons. And then it says, and only because they are my flesh and blood were the reason why the boys were hated. I have seen the emails and used them to get Kyron's brother home with me after Kyron went missing. So after Kyron went missing, these emails have been put into evidence for Kyron's case. She was able to use those emails from Quinn's stepmother to regain custody of her son, Quinn. And that's a huge, I mean, if she was able to regain custody of her son with those emails, they must have said some pretty awful stuff. Terri Horman tells everybody that her lawyer has information that he's never shared that will clear her name. And Desiree says the attorney does not have any witnesses that say that or police would have cleared Terri, but she's still a suspect. Terri has never been cleared. Terri's attorney has never used any kind of witnesses ever. And why wouldn't he, if he actually had witnesses that put Terri in another place or could prove her innocence after 15 years of being harassed, not only by Desiree, but from people on Facebook, for people like me that believe that she's guilty? Why wouldn't she just allow her attorney to tell law enforcement what he has, prove her innocent, and move on? And it's because she can't. And her attorney doesn't have anything. It's just another narrative that she spins to try to convince people that Kyron, she had nothing to do with his disappearance. The witnesses are Carson's sister, Carson's grandmother, Carson's bus driver, all saw Terri leave with Kyron at 8:50 a.m. Then she was at Fred Meyer's at 9:12 a.m. I don't even understand the point to all of this video. So Desiree is pissed off here and upset because people are trying to spin a different narrative. They are Terri's supporters, and they attack Desiree to the point where she leaves this Facebook group because she's tired of being attacked by people. And when I say attacked, I mean attacked. I've never seen anybody attacked the way that she has been. Desiree Young says, or somebody asks Desiree what physical evidence, and Desiree says blood DNA. And then, of course, she talks about it at Crime Fest Northwest, that there's blood DNA in the back of the Horman truck, and that's part of evidence. Desiree also talks about law enforcement not putting the focus on Terri. She's talked about it many, many times that Terri has done this to herself. And in this Facebook post, she says, absolutely, we have investigated about 500 people plus 30 pedophiles in addition to Terri, and they have all been cleared without doubt. Police have fully investigated this, and only one person lied, changed their story multiple times. Only one person has physical evidence against them, one that failed multiple polygraphs, and only one alibi that can't be proven. Only one, and that is Terri Horman. The DA's office will prosecute for all the murder for hire plots. Oh yeah, there are several, as well as Kyron's kidnapping and subsequent charges for that when we find Kyron. They want to hit her with both barrels so it sticks and she can't get off easy. Terri is going down And so are the people who have helped her along the way. Just a matter of Kyron being found first. The only one and only one person standing in the way of that is Terri. So here you have Desiree Young talking about multiple murder for hires. There's also been a murder for hire plot that Terri did against her boyfriend in the 1990s. Desiree Young says he enters the school with Terri at 8:15 earlier than any other parent. She tells Ms. Porter she alone will walk Kyron around, making Ms. Porter remove him from student chaperone group. He's in his classroom at 8:45 when the picture is taken. She had actually walked him around to 2 to 3 classrooms before that, and then after a picture is taken, she walked out the doors with him where the bus driver and his best friend sees him, then disappears with Terri. That's that chaperone group. I come with receipts. Everything I say, I have heard, seen, or know for it to be true, not only because I have researched this case so much. And yes, I do use the words of Kyron's mom. But how can you not? With the work that she does, how can you not? She's not a fool. She's not going to sit and lie to the public and lie to all of us and tell us all of these things when she works with the FBI, when she works with law enforcement, when she teaches them. And you'll hear these Terri supporters say, how can you just listen to the mother of a missing child? Well, first of all, she's privileged to way more information than we are. Secondly, the new information that she put out over the summer was a bombshell. She wanted that information out because she's a frustrated mother that nobody will push forward in her son's case, even after having phone or pictures of Kyron after leaving the school. So why wouldn't she start leaking a little bit of information here or there? Dede was questioned by my civil attorney, not police, and that is when she pleaded the fifth. She has never cooperated with police, not even when I told them to give her immunity to tell us about Terri and her involvement. She went out of her way to not help, not answer anything, and we had to revoke immunity. Well, they tried to revoke it and couldn't revoke it because of the way that the DA at that time, because that was an old Facebook post, at that time, they didn't realize they weren't going to be able to revoke it afterwards because of the way it was written up. That DA messed it up so bad. That's why it's so exciting to hear that if the FBI pushes forward on this case, that Dede won't have her immunity because it's going to be federal, not state. And she was given state immunity. Here Desiree says Ms. Porter had an email from Terri Horman excusing Terri from class. Kyron left the classroom with Terri and walked out of the school. There would be no reason for Ms. Porter to question a parent or to think there was anything wrong. It was all Terry's fault, and that is why we're here today. Was the man that Kyron was given permission to mismount? Hold on. That's not one of Desiree's posts. I don't know why that's there. Oh, Desiree is answering a question about the chaperone that Terri mentions in those emails. And Desiree says, I don't know anything about this, and it's completely wrong. Who makes this stuff up? She says, can we please stay focused on the real facts? Okay, that's too small for me to read right now. But as you can see, Those are some Facebook posts just for some receipts, because I do get attacked. I do get attacked by people in Kyron's case, those Terri supporters. So, let me look and see. I don't know about jurisdiction laws, but I do know that all of the evidence is being digitized. All of the evidence in all of Kyron's case is being compiled. They are going over everything. The DA, the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office, along with the Gresham Police. And when they get the entire case all put together, it's all going to the FBI. And the FBI will be looking over it and handing it over to the BAU for behavioral analysis, which is so very important to have in Kyron's case because this is a no-body case. So there is some kind of jurisdiction, or they wouldn't be able. And the FBI has been working on Kyron's case from the very beginning. The FBI was called the day that Kyron came up missing by Sheriff Dan Staton. So I do know that. So the new information that has came out, I did a live on last week, so you can see that. And now I want to talk about some very important stuff that was going on in the house that Kane spoke about when it comes to abuse.
I didn't feel that he was in danger. No. There was many discussions and arguments around certain behavioral things, and in a lot of cases, me confronting her on stuff that I didn't feel was appropriate. Not dangerous things, but just things around reprimanding or punishment and things like that. And I actually, like I said, the last few months at least, if not more than that, was standing up for him in some of the circumstances because it really was unnecessary. Even with her own son. I mean, that's one thing that we call out in the court paperwork as well that I think everyone needs to understand is this process of removing children from our home started before Kyron went missing. She had her son taken out of our home in February. And I know that there are claims that that was due to me, and I have people that will get up on the stand and testify that that was not the case, and they actually had conversations with her on those days when she made the decision for him to leave. So we had children leaving our house well before Kyron did, and James was the first one. And unfortunately, there's not a lot I can do about that, but if I could step in right now and do something with regards to him, I would in a heartbeat. Again, it was disciplining when it's not appropriate, doing certain things that I didn't feel were appropriate at the time, especially for a child her age. And that's the hard part. We've got 3 kids that are separated by a number of years, and each one of them have to be disciplined differently. You have different expectations because of their ages. You discipline them differently. They're not the same. They're all different. And to try to go through and do some of the things that she did, I just didn't feel that they were appropriate. Were they harmful or life-threatening? Absolutely not. But were they excessive? I believe that they were.
Kane talking about the fact that there was some excessive punishments. Terri wasn't treating the kids, you know, she would want to punish the baby, Kyron, and her oldest son, James, in the same manner. None of the punishment were age appropriate. He said he spent his time months prior to Kyron's disappearance protecting him from Terri. So this hatred that you hear Desiree Young talk about when Terri is emailing with Quinn's stepmom, you're hearing from Kane's own mouth. He's not saying that he saw, you know, a hatred towards Kyron from Terri in those words, but you're definitely hearing of some kind of, you know, not treating Kyron well at all. And then you have this color system that Terri wanted from teachers at the school because they were using this color system at the school. I'm gonna let it just fast forward through here till I see it. Hold on. And then It's in this article. Hold on one second, because this color thing. And I will get into so much more of this. Here it is. I will get into so much more of, all of this when I do my all-day live for Kyron. So please come, because if you want to hear everything, I'm going over everything on June 4th. Everything. Kane said the teacher called parents about a blue or red card. Now, they had different colors. Red would be like, the kid or the child, so to speak, of at school wasn't doing great at school that day. Blue, they were doing good at school that day, kind of a thing. That's what this color code thing is. Here it says, Kane said the teacher called parents about a blue or red card, but he said, blue or red card means they weren't doing good. But he said his wife, Terri, was the only parent who asked for daily accounts from the teacher. Terri wanted, this is in his words, Terri wanted notification whether it was green, yellow, red, or blue. He said every day she wanted it. That to me is extremely excessive. The child was in 2nd grade. And it goes on to talk about how Terri wanted Kyron punished if he got a bad color, and how him and Terri would argue about it. Because, like he just said, he's in 2nd grade. He's a 7-year-old boy. Why? Why did she want these colors every single day? To nitpick, pick on Kyron. That's what she was doing, picking on him. There are even reports by Kane that he believes that his daughter witnessed an unimaginable horror that day, which is horrific and matches what Desiree told the author, Rebecca Morris, in the book Boy Missing. Kiara, on June 4th, that night after Kyron disappeared, didn't want anything to do with Terri. She was almost acting like she was terrified of her, scared of her. All she wanted was the other adults in the house. Is that not so strange? Can you imagine an 18-month-old baby seeing something awful happen? Like, what did she witness happen to her brother? And I hope to God she never remembers that trauma. I believe she's 18 now. Look at Desiree's expression. She knows right there that monster hurt her baby. She does. She does know. And it's not unnormal for the FBI to get involved. FBI gets involved in a lot of kidnapping or child missing. Look at Sebastian Roberts, Summers Wells. FBI's even been involved in Michael Vaughn's case. That's just a few that I can talk about, and Michael Monkey Vaughn. Exactly. It is disgusting. You know, the search for Kyron Horman was the largest search in Oregon's history. It was also, and still is, the largest investigation, criminal investigation in Oregon. Looking to see if there's any question. Every time this year, too, like these Terri supporters come out of the woodworks and start spewing their hate for Desiree, for Kane, spread more misinformation. It's awful. We don't know who's going to prosecute, but I do have a clip. Let me see if I can find it. Because to me, it sounds like the FBI is going to take over this case. Let me just look. Oh, wait, maybe. Hold on a second. I'll look for it here. FBI. So what I just found, I will read. It says, the FBI's role at this time is to re-examine the case. The FBI is working with local law enforcement, Multnomah County Sheriff's Office and Gresham Police Department to re-examine the case, which involves the disappearance of Kyron Horman in 2010. Digitizing and analysis. Local law enforcement spent the past year digitizing and reorganizing the entire case file, including thousands of pieces of evidence. Wow. Never heard that. Thousands of pieces of evidence. That's insane. Sorry. Y'all just got my reaction from something I never heard before. Behavioral Analysis Unit, BAU. Once the digitization, okay, once they digitize it and it's complete, the FBI's BAU will reevaluate the files. The BAU's role, the BAU uses behavioral and psychological analysis to review past statements and evidence and provide investigators with suggestions based on patterns from similar cases. Continued commitment. The Multnomah County Sheriff's Office has stated they remain committed to finding Kyron and bringing a resolution to the case. So in summary, the FBI is not taking over the case, but rather providing their expertise and resources to assist local law enforcement and going on in the ongoing investigation. Oh yeah, that baby felt a vibe, if not seen something, which I really hope that she didn't. There are so many bullies out there in these missing children's cases. I just don't get it. The ones that have to, you know, put out the misinformation. Okay. I'm going to look through some more questions here. Let me see. I wish the mom knew what was going on in this house. I saw a lady write that she used to see her be nasty to Kyron. I think she worked in a shop where they shopped. I don't know anything about that, but Desiree didn't have a clue that things weren't going good in the house until Kane later said so a couple months after Kyron's disappearance. Yeah. What kind of discipline do you give your 18-month-old child? Yeah, she really disciplined all the children in the house, and they weren't disciplined in a way by ages. Sure, Kelly, that they are probably going to question everyone again. If they're re-going over the case, I wouldn't doubt it if they talk to all of the witnesses, or they may not have to if all of those witnesses have already spoken to the grand jury and given testimony. And let's talk about that in Kyron's case. So Kyron's case, the grand jury has seemed to have been used as like a tool to get information, like warrants for searches, to put out, what's the word I'm looking for? Subpoena people and that kind of thing. And, I'm looking for my grand jury information. Hold on one second. And in this case, the grand jury has been used as a tool, collecting, interviewing people, collecting information. I am looking. Hold on one second. Here is something that talks about the grand jury being used as a tool in Kyron's case.
Some of the testimony is expected to focus on people who saw and dealt with the women on the day that Kyron vanished. It's unclear how long the grand jury will keep meeting. Prosecutors sometimes use these secret grand juries as investigative tools, and they have no end date. Back to you.
And I know that doesn't specifically say that Kyron's case is. I am looking for more. Hold on. Let's see. Here's another thing about a doctor's appointment, too. I believe this is from Bruce McCain. Well,
He's
I'm
a former
searching.
captain in the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office. He retired just last year. Good to have you with us this morning.
Well, thank you, Erica, for having me.
There are new reports out that Terri Horman told her stepson Kyron's teachers on the morning he disappeared that he had a doctor's appointment later that day. She claims she said she alerted them to the appointment, which was going to happen the following Friday. I know you look at that information, you say there's something that doesn't work here.
The critical thing about this June 4th doctor's appointment is that put the school in the position of not being concerned at all that Kyron was not in his class, wasn't at lunch, and wasn't on the bus that afternoon. So it looks like, at least this point, Terri was able to bring Kyron to school, establish his presence there, and then perhaps take him away. At least that's the theory they're working on, without the school picking up the phone and calling Kane at work, for example.
As you're putting that together, you spent many years, obviously, with the Sheriff's Department. Does that tell you that there could be some sort of premeditated plan here?
Well, obviously that looks like it very much would be a planned issue, especially with the deceptive answers she gave later about, gee, I think I meant June 11th, which would have been long after the school was already out. So the key right now is going back and focusing and reconstructing every hour and minute that she spent on that fateful June 4th to find out exactly where the holes are in her original story.
First night.
And this is Desiree Young talking about the items being washed. The coat, the jacket, every stitch of clothing of Kyron's washed.
We brought in several canine teams and had searched the house. This is super critical, especially in a missing child case, to search the house as a secondary scene. And here's some of my law enforcement coming out, so sorry to bore you with the dry details. But you'll lose critical pieces of evidence if you don't investigate that house and search it many times. So here's a lesson learned, right? They didn't get on Terri right away. This is what's unusual. Terri had washed every stitch of clothing Kyron ever owned. Everything.
Every stitch of clothing that Kyron ever owned. Can you guys imagine walking into your bedroom right now, okay? and washing every stitch of clothing in your room, in your dressers, in your closet, all of your bedding. Imagine doing that.
All of his bedding, all of his clothes, his backpack that was at the school, washed. His coat, washed. All piled up on his bed, not folded, but washed. Now, the canine teams are looking for a scent article, right? Yeah. That's why that's critical. You gotta lock down the house right away. You've gotta search it. You don't let people in there to mess with your scene. It made it very challenging for us. We've even gotten heat in the media because of it, because one of these independent guys wanted to help us and bring out dog teams. Well, we weren't against it. We didn't have anything to give him. We had no scent article.
Can you imagine not having a scent article? And when she says that, I think hairbrush, I think shoes. I'm thinking, like, what else could they have used? And then she also talks about the way that this is one of the reasons she teaches law enforcement. I'm just going to keep saying it over and over again, how she teaches law enforcement. Because here she talks about, here you have the Horman house. Kyron has went missing. Law enforcement is at the house. Terry's at the house. Kane's at the house. Desiree's at the house. Baby sister's at the house. Family members are at the house. People that knew the Hormans came to the house. Are you guys seeing the problem here? All of these people are inside the house, trampling all over evidence. Any evidence that could have existed in the house. Because we don't know if Terri went back to her house that day and all of this running around she did to clean up herself or anything. Why were so many people allowed? And she just said, Desiree did, what a mistake it was by law enforcement to allow so many people to be in the house after Kyron disappeared. And then you have Terri watching everything of Kyron's and no scent. Desiree's mom was there. She wanted to wash a load of laundry because she, you know, they had been there for almost a week too, by the way. They were there for days and days. Desiree's mom wanted to wash some clothes. Terri acted really funky about it and didn't want her mom to wash her clothes. Terri Horman acted like the hostess with the mostest. Hey, everybody, I've got coffee in here. Would you guys like to come in and have some coffee? I made this, I made that. I've got snacks, I've got food. If you guys need anything, let me know. The night that Kyron disappeared. That's in the book, Boy Missing. How strange and unusual is that? You're the stepmother of a child that you're helping to raise. Remember, Terri and Kane took care of Kyron the majority of the time. Her stepson just came up missing. And she's the hostess with the mostest, running around offering people cake and food and coffee. Meanwhile, all these people are trampling all over any evidence that could have been in that house. Yeah, she went back to the house to do that, but there were already lots of people up at the house. People, they were searching at the school. They were searching for Kyron at home. They were searching, there was like a 2-mile radius. They were searching for Kyron in, and their home was included. So by the time she gets back with that jacket and backpack, there's already law enforcement and people there. You know, something that really gets to me is Desiree Young, how she describes. She gets the phone call, you know, Kyron's missing. She starts doing everything she can. She's got to leave Medford to get to Portland. It's like a 4.5, 5-hour drive, depending on traffic, which traffic on I-5 sucks. So it could take a very long time. By the time she pulls into, I mean, first of all, can you even imagine your son is missing and now you have to drive 4 or 5 hours? I mean, that in itself would be like the longest drive ever. And she already has a suspicion of Terri because of the random emails, because of the pictures that Terri was sending her when they would normally send pictures to each other in a thumb drive and never have conversation or email each other or text message each other. It was very unusual for all that stuff to happen. That's all going through Desiree's mind. She's driving. She gets into Portland. She gets on Cornelius Pass Road, which is the main road to get to Kane's and Kyron's house and to go to Skyline Elementary School. She's with her husband, Tony, who is law enforcement, by the way, who is a detective, who does work on cases. He's retired now, but at the time did work and investigate on murder investigations. She's in the car with him. They get on to Cornelius Pass Road. It's evening time now. And she's going down Cornelius Pass, and then she sees the lights at the school. How bright it was, because they're setting up all those great big giant huge lights in the area to look for Kyron. They're still searching the school. They're still searching the area. You've got cars lined up along the road and everything. That's the first thing she sees is the sky lit up by the lights up at the school. And she tells Tony to turn because he's driving past it. And she's like, why aren't you going to the school? And he tells her, honey, we can't go up to the school. We've got to go talk to law enforcement. Law enforcement is at Kane's house. We can't go to the school. All Desiree's thinking about is finding her son, searching for her son. They get to Kane's house. She gets out. She sees people looking and searching for Kyron, hollering his name. She gets out and she decides, I'm going to go look for Kyron. And he's like, no, honey, you don't understand. Like, we got to go inside. We have to go talk to law enforcement. Because Tony was hell-bent on getting him and her, their alibis, everything. Like, sit down, talk to law enforcement. So they knew exactly what they were doing that day so they could get checked off that list that they were already on, because they're parents of a missing child, and Tony wanted them marked off. And every single one of them, Kane, Tony, and Desiree, all got checked off that list as a suspect because everybody knew, or law enforcement knew exactly where they were and what they were doing. I could not imagine knowing my son has been missing for 5 or 6 hours. Now I have to drive 4 or 5 hours. Now I have to talk to law enforcement. I still can't search for my son. Terri has already called her and told her, oh my God, he's probably cold. He left his jacket and his backpack up at the school. Who says that? Trying, I feel, to make Desiree worry about Kyron. I had something here earlier that I saw. Let me see if I can find it, because I do have so much information I can share with you guys. It's ridiculous. If you guys saw my computer and my files when it comes to the Kyron case, Michael's is actually starting to look a lot like it too. Got some interviews here with the parents. Let's check out some of these. So Let's watch this one first.
The parents of 7-year-old Kyron Horman sat down this afternoon, once again begging for the public's help to bring their son home.
There shouldn't be any fear from anyone to get in the middle, but we need that information.
He's a great kid. He's got a great smile. Everybody has become familiar with it. Just remember that. Keep it in your head.
It's been 2 heartbreaking months since a 7-year-old went missing.
And Kelly wants to know if I think anything happened at the house. I don't think anything happened at the house. If anything happened at the house, Terri did have time to go to the house and clean up if she needed to. And that's about the only thing I can think of that might have happened at the house. I know that there were items from the house that were missing. That I actually heard from Desiree during a news report that items from the house were found. So that's good. But I don't know that anything as far as like harming Kyron happened at the house.
What do you miss most about seeing him as a mother and father? What do you think about?
Is a very affectionate kid. He has been since he was a baby. Just the random hugs and the sounds and he has this short hair. I always run my fingers through his hair.
He helps me shave my head and likes to rub my head for the 3 or 4 days while it's still short. Going out and feeding the cat together. Our morning walks down to the bus.
Police are releasing few details about the case, but the family says it's heading in the right direction.
Are there any new leads at all?
Many. Lots of
Anything you can talk about or share?
No.
However, seemingly the most unlikely person is still the focus of this investigation, Kyron's own stepmother.
And there you have the news reporter say Terri Horman is the focus. It is not in the state of Oregon. It's not, what am I trying to say here? So in the state of Oregon, police officers, sheriff's offices, when it comes to these cases, DAs, whatever, they don't normally do the whole, like, we're going to name this person a person of interest. We're going to name this person a suspect. That's not what Oregon does. Very little times do they ever call somebody a person of interest or a suspect. But, and I can't tell you in how many hundreds of reports, whether they were written out in a newspaper or a news article or on the news, have I heard her been called the focus of law enforcement, and have heard that from law enforcement themselves. The reason they don't say person of interest or a suspect is because once you name them that, if you can't prove that, there leaves room for lawsuits. Oregon suffers in a lot of their counties throughout Oregon not having a lot of money to fight things like that. And it all comes down to money. We don't want to get sued. We don't want to have to spend our money in our counties to fight somebody because we called them a suspect. And look, we found out it was this person, or we found out that this happened, or we lost the case in court and now they're going to sue us.
Picture she posted on Facebook would suggest they had the perfect family, a trip to Disneyland, dressed alike on Halloween, family vacations. But Kyron Horman says Terri is not the woman he married. Since the second grader's disappearance, he says Terri, who has not been named a suspect, has failed 2 polygraph tests.
If Terri did this, what could her motivation be?
I have tried to put my head inside hers and I can't. I'm a completely different person, so I really can't answer that.
You try to put a logical sense or even a thought process behind it, and the next event comes up and it completely just blows it away. It's difficult in this situation too, because
the next event comes up and it completely blows it away. Every time they thought they knew what was going on with Terri, something else would change. something else would be found. Some kind of evidence other than what they were told by Terri would come out and change everything again. And it happened over and over and over and over. Terri Horman can never, ever tell the truth. She has never once said the same thing multiple times. Everything's different. Stories have changed for years and years. She gets a high-profile attorney at the end of June, the month that Kyron disappeared. She has never spoken to law enforcement again since. But then her ass can hop up and talk to People Magazine and go on the Dr. Phil show. Make that make sense. Refuse to talk to law enforcement, but I'm going to go on TV.
Because you have someone who's so close to you basically betray you in this situation.
Since Kyron's disappearance, lurid allegations have emerged about the stepmother, including an alleged murder for hire. Court documents say she allegedly attempted to hire her landscaper to kill her husband, Kyron's father.
The landscaper, in fact, assisted police and either wore a body wire but agreed to have a further conversation with Terri Horman, and which was recorded by investigators.
Then came allegations from divorce filings that she was texting and sending sexual photographs of herself to one of her husband's former high school classmates just days after Kyron's disappearance. Additional divorce filings allege Terri paid her attorney a retainer of $350,000. Now Kyron Horman is demanding to know the source of that money. She claims the amount is grossly overestimated.
You believe without a doubt that Terri has something to do with this?
Yes.
Do you believe that she has help from someone?
I, as a logical person, think that. I don't have any evidence to tell me that. I just believe that.
In fact, one of Terri's closest friends, Dede Spicher, has been called to testify before the grand jury. Last week, working from information provided to them by the police, Kane and Desiree singled out Spicher, a 43-year-old gardener who they believe has been aiding and advising Terri Horman since Kyron's disappearance. Reports also surfaced that Spicher was spotted abruptly leaving her job for 90 minutes on June 4th, the day Kyron disappeared, around the same time the boy is believed to have vanished.
Does your gut tell you that she may have some information that could help crack this case?
I think all we want for her to do is cooperate with law enforcement, whether the information is related to the case or not. It just needs to bring it forward.
And remember, this is an early on news report. And not only do things change as time goes by, but that 90 minutes, that unaccounted time that Dede Spicher has gone from 90 minutes up to almost 3 to 4 hours. There's several reports that talk about 3-4 hours. I just can't believe that I just read the FBI has like thousands of pieces of evidence. That was crazy. And yes, there is a lot of circumstantial evidence, but now they have those photos with GPS. So all of that information is just so important in Kyron's case. And like I said, you guys, there are so many layers. I want to play the news conference. I won't play it in its entirety, but I do want to show you guys the mannerism of Terri Horman during the first family's news conference. This is after she's already failed a polygraph. This is already after Desiree and Kane believe she knows something because she's changing her story. So things are awkward. And this interview is probably one of the most awkward interviews you will ever see in a missing child's case. Why didn't that go? Let's do it.
Hello, my name is Tony Young, and I'm Kyron's stepfather. The family's asked me to speak on their behalf today.
Kane and Desiree were so emotionally messed up. There was no way they could get in front of that mic and speak. Matter of fact, Kane ends up talking too, and there's this long hug between Tony and Kane, and Kane doesn't even want to let go of Tony. But when you're watching this, pay attention to Terri Horman in the background.
I would just like to say, Kyron, we miss you, we love you, and we need you home right now. We're doing everything we can to work with law enforcement and the search and the rescue crews to make sure that you can get back to us as soon as possible. We want to say how much we appreciate the outpouring of love and support, prayer and thoughts as we wait for you. Your school friends and their families, the teachers, the staff at your school, and the community as a whole have shown how much impact one little boy's smile can have on a community. You mean everything to us, and until you come home, this family is not complete. Please, Kyron, keep up the hope. We believe in you, and we know you will be back with us soon. I'd like to now introduce Kyron's father, Kyron Horman.
I honestly feel like Kane's body was so weak, he almost had to have Tony hold him up there for a second. It's just heart-wrenching. And just look at Terri Horman in the background. She was rubbing Desiree's arm, rubbing her, caressing. They are not friends. You could almost use the word enemy here, okay? They hated each other. They didn't like each other. No, that's not the reason why Desiree Young honed in on Terri Horman. But, like I said, Desiree thought God was going to strike her dead, standing there right next to her. She, after this interview, Desiree Young speaks about this in the book Boy Missing, that when this is over with, when this news conference is over, the investigator that was standing there next to Desiree, this woman investigator, ends up grabbing Terri and walking her off. Or was it she grabbed Desiree and walked her off? I don't know. But she separated the two. And it's because Desiree was about to lose it. And this investigator saw it. She knew she was about to lose it on Terri Horman.
Hi, I'm Kane. I'm Kyron's father. We want to thank the community, the parents, the children, bus drivers, and all of those who are being interviewed multiple times to help find Kyron.
During this news conference, you will not see Terri Horman shed a tear. Terri Horman has never spoken to the media about Kyron, asked anybody to look for Kyron, ever. She does not cry. The one and only time she ever sheds a tear is when she's asked a question about not seeing her daughter for years, and that was on People magazine. That's it. She's never shed a tear in public. Yeah, her face. It does. It says it all. Totally. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people all over social media, everywhere, talked about how Terri Horman looked during this interview, the guilt written all over her face, the stress of worrying about being busted. You want to know why? Because Terri Horman didn't expect for Kyron's case to blow up the way that it did. His beautiful face, his glasses, his smiles, his big ears, going on the news, flyers going up. She didn't expect Kyron, because she hated Kyron. She didn't expect Kyron to blow up. And now she's got the press in front of her, and everybody is already focused on her, and she knows it.
Thank you. We as the family know how difficult and stressful this is, but your memories and statements can help us find Kyron. We will never be able to thank you enough for that help. Finally, we would like to thank the media. If it was not for you showing Kyron on every newscast, printing his story in the papers, his face would not be known to everyone. People from around the nation have seen his picture. This helps tremendously. Please help us bring Kyron home.
I don't think she's rolling her eyes at Desiree, but there is at one point where she looks up sideways up at Desiree, and it's like, okay, I'm here. I'm rubbing you. I'm caressing you. I'm trying to give you attention. I'm trying to join you in looking upset. And she's looking up at Desiree to get her reaction. What's her reaction to me doing this? It's one of the most awkward situations in Kyron's case, this right here. Terri is awkward, scared, and honestly showing no emotion other than fear. It is one of the biggest, wow. Let me see. I have so many different news. You've seen the one where Desiree implores Terri to cooperate, and then there's this one.
Starts up again just after Labor Day. Kyron would be entering the 3rd grade. What is it like to wake up in the morning and know it's another day that he's not home?
Sickening. It's hard to get up every day.
And now school is starting again.
Yep. He needs to come home. We miss him terribly.
If Kyron is somewhere and can see this, is there something you would want to say to him?
We're going to bring you home. We love you.
Yep, we're still looking.
Yeah.
And we won't stop until you come home.
We won't stop until you come home. These are parents looking for their child. These are innocent parents that have nothing to do with their child missing. You know, there was even a recent thing by Deception Detective. He used Desiree Young as an example as what a mother, an innocent mother of their child missing, does to advocate for their child when their child has came up missing. So he uses her as an example, as an innocent parent in a missing child's case. It was actually really great to see, and I'm hoping to see more stuff on Kyron on his show. And then, like I said, next week we'll go over Dede Spicher a lot more. My file on Dede is actually bigger than my file on Kyron, believe it or not. She was the person I thought I needed to dig into the most, and believe it or not, there was so much information to find out on her. Okay. Just looking through my information. Here's Desiree talking about the hatred for Kyron.
Mom, Desiree Young is with us exclusively. Desiree, good morning to you.
Good morning.
This is the first time that you are speaking out about Kyron without your ex-husband, Kane. Up until now, you two have maintained a united front. So what has changed?
Well, we're still a united front in the goal that we want Kyron home. And
this interview came out right after Kane starts talking about the things that were going on in the house, and Desiree got very upset and angry about it because she didn't know how the last year had went in the house with Kyron, and had she known, she would have tried harder to get him to come home to her and be with her instead of in the house with Terri. Now, there are a lot of people that hate on Kane But Kane was in the process of divorcing her, leaving her, and all those things. So don't forget, that's why there's murder for hire plots. That's why this has happened to Kyron, because she wanted her daughter in the long run, and it all just backfired on her, on Terri.
And we want answers. That hasn't changed. I personally have learned of information lately that has disappointed me in Kane's choices and his behavior, and I just can't stand by and support the choices that he's making.
Well, some of that has to do with these court documents that you've seen where he talks about his wife, Terri, being visibly impaired from alcohol several times a week, putting her kids at risk. He calls her emotionally disturbed, yet he never shared any of his concerns with you. Is that correct?
So Terri Horman was drinking excessively. She had postpartum depression. She was taking medication for depression. And we know alcohol and depression medicines do not work good together. We know now that Terri would pass out at night while the kids were running around because she was so drunk. Kane says that there were times that, you know, he'd come downstairs from working and she'd be passed out on the couch and the baby would be running around. But postpartum depression, pills, and the fact that I believe, in my personal opinion, that she was also coming down off of steroids because she was a bodybuilder and there's like steroids around the house and stuff. But that's besides the point. All of these things just don't mix well together.
That's correct. We learned of all of this information after the fact and from the media. He had several opportunities to let Tony and I know what was going on in the house, and he did not. He had several opportunities to make the right choice and either let me know or remove Kyron from the house. I would have removed Kyron from the house had I have known what was going on.
Did you see any signs ever, Desiree, that Terri was dealing with alcohol abuse, or that she was, as Kane put it, emotionally disturbed?
Webs of deceit. She has not seen her daughter in 15 years. She refused to talk about Kyron, what happened to Kyron that day on June 4th, 2010, and she has never seen her daughter again. No, Kane is saying here that Terri was drinking a lot. And lots of other things going on in the house that Desiree Young here, Kyron's mom, didn't know about.
I did not see any signs of the I did not see any evidence of alcohol abuse. In fact, I didn't know about the DUI until after Kyron went missing. But as far as
the DUI that Terri Horman got, she was driving at excessive speeds, drunk, 3 times the limit, with her oldest son, James, in the vehicle with her. And when she got pulled over, she goes to jail. And then later on, there was actually a CPS case opened up on her. And this was back, I want to say, in... I'm not going to say the date, but it was the early 2000s. I think it was like, I want to say it was 2005. But yeah, she had her son, and at the time, I believe he was pretty young. So she's driving around drunk with her son in the car back in 2005. Don't quote me on that date, but I'm pretty sure it's 2005.
As a personality disorder, I did for years. I was aware that she had some issues with pathological lying, things of that nature, but just mostly from my interactions with her, I didn't see, as much as Kane did.
If you had any concerns, why didn't you at any time, or did you, try to get your son Kyron out of that home?
Oh yes, I did. Starting a year prior to him going missing, I tried to get custody of him.
And what would happen?
Kane told me it was not an option on several occasions, and it was a point of contention with us. He was exhibiting some problems in school, and he was expressing a lot of sadness and upset at the situation, and Kyron on many occasions told me he wanted to come live with me. And on a couple of different occasions, Terri had called me specifically so that I could talk to Kyron because he was so upset, and Terri personally wanted me to take Kyron.
And then on Friday, the police showed you some emails that Terri had sent.
I just have to say this. Terri tried, right? She tried to get Kyron out of the house and to his mom's. She did try to get him there. Had she succeeded, Kyron would still be here to this day, I believe. Is it Kane's fault? No. How many of you in chat would just give up your child that you have fought so hard to have? You're not just going to up and do it. So what did Kane do? He did all of the things that he needed to do to, I'm leaving you. We're getting a divorce. He is trying to get all of that put together that last year. The only mistake that Kane made was not making sure he did it fast enough. And you can't even blame him for that. How long does it take for you to leave somebody? You have a young baby and a 7-year-old in your house. And Kane was very close to his stepson, James. They had a great relationship. Splitting up from Terri wasn't easy for him. Wasn't an easy decision for him to make. He wanted things to work out. He loved James so much, and that was the only father that James ever really had in his life, because Terri Horman was always bouncing around with all of these other men and everything else.
To friends of hers, describing her marriage to Kane and her feelings about your son. I know you can't reveal the specifics because of the investigation, but generally, what did they say?
It's very clear from Terry's horrible words that she had a severe hatred for Kyron, and that she blamed a lot of the marital problems between Kane and herself on Kyron, that it was a huge point of contention in their marriage, and she had expressed in great detail her hatred for Kyron. I now believe, without a shadow of a doubt, that not only is she capable of hurting Kyron, that it's clear that she could have hurt him in the worst possible way.
Do you still hold out hope that your son is alive?
I will until the day I die.
Desiree Young, thank you so much for joining us, and please know that our thoughts and prayers are with you.
Oh my God, it just kills me every time I see these old clips of Desiree Young. You know, to just see a mom so upset about not having their son. I mean, what is it about seeing the moms? I mean, yes, it hurts me bad to see Kane doing the same thing, but it's just heart-wrenching when you see a mom. Trying to look to see if there's anything else that I want to share. Let's see. Here's another one.
Terri Horman, stepmother of missing second grader Kyron, moved out of the Portland home she once shared with husband Kane and their children after reaching a court settlement this weekend. She was spotted Saturday in Roseburg, Oregon, where her family lives.
You're on private property. I would just stay back right now.
She was seen driving away with her father. With Terri out of the house, Kyron Horman now has moved back in. He left June 26th after learning from investigators that Terri allegedly had hired a landscaper to kill him. In yet another twist, Kyron Horman now says he suspects there might be another person, along with his wife, connected to his son's disappearance. In an email interview with the Oregonian, Kyron said, quote, "Based upon briefings, he firmly believes that someone else is involved." According to court documents, Terri developed a sexual relationship with her husband's high school friend, and Kyron in the documents accuses Terri of attempting to kidnap the couple's 20-month-old daughter from a local gym. Today marks the 45th day since Kyron Horman vanished from Skyline Elementary School. Over the weekend, Kyron's parents visited the school where the 7-year-old was last seen. The community has helped create a memorial wall of hope in Kyron's honor.
It's great to see everyone supporting Kyron. That's why we're all here to find him, and it's very overwhelming for us to come here in a good way.
Terri Horman has not been named a suspect, but she remains the focus of the investigation.
And again, you hear that word, focus. Terri Horman, the focus of the investigation, which
evidence in
she was. And then
Horman.
Oh, sorry. I got confused with my fingers there. I want to play this.
the bed of the truck, physical.
This is the evidence that Desiree Young said that they had or have in Kyron's case. And this has to do with burner phones, as I will pause because it is very hard. You have to really listen. It's hard to hear, but I'm going to pause to just kind of, because I know exactly what it says. So here we go.
We have evidence in the truck.
There's evidence in the truck. Blood DNA in the truck. Desiree's been talking about that for years and years.
Bed of the truck, physical DNA evidence. We have things missing from the house that she
We've got things missing from the house
used.
That she used. Speaking of Terri.
We have the injury to her leg.
We have the injury to her leg. Earlier, we talked about the gash on Terry's leg. Somebody reported that to law enforcement. Terri, on June 4th, 2010, got some kind of gash on her leg. We don't know any more than that, but she did have an injury. And when you're walking and tromping around in those areas up there in that rural area, it could be from so many things. And blackberry bushes are sharp. Black bushes are crazy. Okay. We got questions. Wait, so not only did she put a hit out on her husband, but may have tried to steal a child from Kane's friend? Steal a child from Kane's... No. She did not try to steal a child from Kane's friend. She tried to steal her child from Kane. Kane put the baby in daycare there at the gym while he was working out, and she tried to take her from the gym. And that was a little while after, you know, all of this. And she used Joseph Cristobal. She used another man, Kane's high school buddy. I don't know what she was using him for, in all honesty. He got involved. They were trying, him and her were trying, Kane's high school friend and Terri Horman were trying to figure out the location of where Kyron Horman was when he went into hiding with his daughter after he found out about the murder for hire plot. He goes into hiding, and they were both trying to figure out where he was. I don't understand why his friend wanted, you know, to help Terri do that. That's the same man she was sexting with at the end of June. And then Terri tries to kidnap her daughter from the gym where Kane's working out. Those charges have been put in Kyron's case because there are no statutes of limitations on murder for hire. And Kane is also a victim. So they are using all of the murder for hire plots, even the one against her ex-boyfriend in the 1990s, to show Terri's calculated personality when it comes to wanting to harm people. These murder for hire plots. Kane is a victim in his son's case because of that. So it's all being saved. Multnomah County Sheriff's Office is good for that whole loading everything and using it all with both barrels. Yeah, that is Multnomah County Sheriff's Office. They are going to gather every single little tiny piece they possibly can. And if they were to press forward with the murder for hires, they would then also have to talk about Kyron's case, which could then, when they do prosecute Kyron's case, could mess up his case. If something were to come out that early on in the, this murder for hire plot, because that was way back in 2010, if they would have done things wrong and not had their I's dotted and T's crossed and everything perfect, something could have happened there in court that could have really hindered something later on. Very good question. Okay, so back to this. So we have the DNA, the gash on her leg, things missing from the house that they know Terri used.
From that day, we know that we have photos on those cell phones.
We have photos on those cell phones talking about the burner phones that Terri and Dede used on June 4th, 2010. Now in the background, Rebecca Morris, the author of the book Boy Missing, is in the background, and she asks Desiree photos of Kyron after the school, and Desiree responds to her and says yes. But before that, Desiree says we have a picture of it.
We have the picture of it.
What is it? We don't know what it is. Me and my team strongly believe that it could possibly be a burial site, a dug hole, something like that. Because we know what these photos were, a picture of an unalive Kyron, they would have already been arrested by now. But a picture of it is what she says.
We don't know where that picture was taken.
We don't know where that picture was taken. But what we do know now is that because the photos were taken on cell phones, even back in 2010, GPS, the technology on those phones, there is a location connected to the photos. They are looking for that location. And that is why because this information from the burner phones came out a few years ago, and that's what's been all the hype with all of the searches for Kyron the last couple of years. They're looking for this location using geofencing.
The picture of Kyron after the school? Yes.
And that was Rebecca Morris barely in the background. You can barely hear her say pictures of Kyron after the school, and Desiree says yes. I'm going to try to rewind it a little bit more right here.
After the school? Yes.
Let me pause a little bit. Let me come back here. Right here is where Rebecca says a picture of Kyron after the school. Desiree says yes.
The picture of Kyron after the school? Yes.
I wish the recording was better, but that is what she says. A picture of Kyron after the school, not an unalive Kyron. Maybe Terri was taking pictures of Kyron while he was in the truck or something. I don't know. Yes, geofencing isn't just cool. Geofencing is going to break this case. If they find Kyron, it will be because of geofencing. Yeah, I mean, parents are victims. Even if there had not been a murder for hire, a plot against Kane and Desiree, Tony, Quinn, Kiara, the siblings, the parents, the stepdad, everyone in the family is a victim. They're all suffering. Still 15 years later, Kiara goes with her dad to these shows and everything else. One of my team members from our Facebook group, Kaylia, who has taken a recent social media break, she actually went, met Kane, met Kiara, met Kane's new girlfriend or wife. I don't even know if they're married or what. She's actually in our Facebook group. I have teachers that are in my Facebook group from the school. I get messages from people that were at the school that day. One of the old janitors that worked there. I have found out so much information. But family members are victims when a child comes up missing or murdered. You're a nerd. I'm a nerd too. I want to look and see if there's anything else that I can show you guys to talk about. Let's go up here to Doug Bishop interview. Okay, so on this Doug Bishop interview that he does with Desiree, they talk about the polygraphs.
Terri came in from failing one of the polygraphs. She was visibly shaken by it, and she was scrambling to try and justify herself. She's bothered by it. Not the same way I think that normal people would be, just like in a frenzy. And she's walking around the living room, and she walks over to me, and I'm sitting in a recliner, leans over the arm at me and says, "I want you to know I loved your son." And I heard it, and I looked at her and I said, "What did you say?" "I loved your son. I love my son. I love my son still. I will never stop loving my son." You said past tense, and yes. I stood up and looked at my mom, and I was in like a moment of rage. Someone has to get me. I'm going to kill her. I had to walk out of the house. I couldn't handle it. I was at my limit. And Tony looked at me from outside and knew something was wrong. And he came up to me and I said, "She said she loved my son." Past tense. She said loved, not love. She did something to him. And I hadn't slept in days. Tony thought I was being emotional. I said, "Ask my mom. She said that. That was her words. I'm not being emotional. I'm telling you. It's a fact." It got even more uncomfortable. She failed the second polygraph.
A second?
Yes.
With the FBI?
Yes. And they were able to get to a
polygraph test with the FBI. We're not talking about local law enforcement. Terri Horman's polygraph tests were given to her by the FBI, and she failed 2 and walked out on a 3rd.
Another version of her timeline through that polygraph, right? And
So as a result, we were concerned at that point. Tony said to me, they're not clearing her off their list. There's something wrong.
Yeah.
And so we all.
And don't forget, her husband, Tony, is an investigator, law enforcement, has worked murder cases. He was very concerned when they did not want to mark her and check her off the list and move forward into looking for other persons of interest and suspects.
All went into Kyron's bedroom, away from my parents, my son, and we went in there to talk. And Kane, Tony, and I confronted her. And I said to her, trying to appeal to her motherly instinct if she had one, think about it if it was Kiara. If it was Kiara and I was the last person with her, would you not want me to do everything humanly possible to clear myself? Would you not want me to take 5,000 polygraphs if I had to? If you have to take 11 polygraphs and it's uncomfortable, you do it, because we have to find Kyron. We hit her hard. We've all taken polygraphs. It's uncomfortable. That's all she vented about, how uncomfortable and awkward it was. They're mean to me. Absolutely, it's uncomfortable. I was scared to death that they wouldn't believe me, that I had nothing to do with it. But I passed because I didn't have anything to do with it. Because I have no guilty conscience. I love my son. She can't get cleared. She can't pass a polygraph because she's lying, she's deceiving, and she absolutely knew where Kyron was. And that's the question she failed. Where is Kyron? Did you have any involvement? Were you with Kyron after 8:45?
He failed the questions directly to Kyron. Directly to Kyron.
And she absolutely knew where Kyron was. And that's the question she failed. Where is Kyron? Did you have any involvement? Were you with Kyron after 8:45?
And she failed those questions?
Yes. And when they asked her to do a third, she walked out of the polygraph. Got up and walked out. Wouldn't finish it.
Wouldn't finish the polygraph test because law enforcement had more new information. The third polygraph test, I don't think, was done for a couple of weeks later. They couldn't get her to do it. And as new questions, new information, it just made her, she's playing the victim. They're being mean to me. Yeah, whatever. She couldn't pass it. She knew she wasn't going to be able to pass it. And she got up and walked out.
Was calling me sometimes in the middle of the night in that year. She wanted me to take Kyron. She asked me on several occasions. Terri ended up taking Kane's truck that day. She needed it so that she could pick up the science fair exhibit after it was done. That's unusual. The science fair exhibits were supposed to remain up until Monday. The other caveat is the picture. So the real timeline that we know, absolutely witnessed by everybody on GPS with the camera, is that she came up that stairwell, walked Kyron all the way to Miss Porter's classroom, took pictures of him and his two friends in front of the diorama, time-stamped, 8:45. Right before she walks out the side doors with Kyron. That also is witnessed by Kyron's bus driver. She happened to be sitting in her bus and saw Terri and Kyron come out of the school with Kiara. And his other friend and grandma and sister are outside the school and see Kyron leaving with Terri. So we know that Terri went from the school, and we know that she went to 2 Fred Meyers. She claims that she was there to buy cold medicine for Kiara, supposedly. Well, that's the funny thing is Kiara was not sick at the time that Kyron went missing. She was sick a couple weeks earlier. She had actually taken antibiotics and by that point was fine. She claimed that the first Fred Meyer didn't have it and that she went to the second Fred Meyer. So she's seen pulling into the second Fred Meyer, pulling into the parking lot. She's on video surveillance. Kyron is nowhere to be seen in the video surveillance, although Kyron is the type of child, if you told him to stay in the car, he would absolutely listen to you. From that moment, Terri is missing, although seen by witnesses in various side roads off of the Skyline area. She's seen pulled over on the side of the road. Her phone is out of signal for a significant period of time. Her phone pings at 11 a.m. driving down Highway 30. She's seen checking Kiara in there at the gym. She was seen walking around, talking to people she did not know significantly, but showing them the photo of Kyron. She had injured her leg, and the person noted that Terri indicated it was because she dropped a weight on her leg, down her shin, but the person said it was not that kind of injury. It was like she scraped it on something uneven and jagged. And it was odd because she did not work out, not once.
How long was she at the gym?
A total of about 15 to 18 minutes.
What?
Yeah, she didn't work out. She has several interviews in the first several days, right?
Okay.
And so the first timeline she's giving doesn't have that in there.
Okay.
So they're wondering, where is she between, these times? So at first, the timeline is very sparse because she hasn't thought it through. She hasn't figured out where she was. She can't account for that time.
Okay.
So she's having to manufacture stuff. So initially, the timeline she gives them doesn't have any of that in there.
Okay.
And then they're coming back to her with evidence. We have an eyewitness that put you here. We have your phone ping here. Like, where were you? And then she's trying to fill that in, right?
Okay.
And so she comes back with several different things. She claims she was at Michael's. Well, they know that her phone pinged at 11 on Highway 30. You couldn't have been at Michael's. Not only that, but there's no video surveillance of you at Michael's. Not only that, but the staff there claims to never have seen you at Michael's. And then she changes her version again. And I believe it was Monday. I'm in the house and she was on her computer and I asked her what she was doing. And she's like, she was defensive and didn't want me looking at her computer. And she's like, you just need to mind your own business. And I said, okay. I just was asking what you were doing. Well, they're trying to get my timeline of where I was. Okay. So she was typing up her timeline.
Typing up her timeline for the day that Kyron came up missing. Typing up her timeline. Your stepson has came up missing. You should remember everything that has happened that day, even though traumatizing. Like Desiree says, she remembers what she ate that day. You go over that time and time again in your head, and you got to try to remember everything. Here she is writing out her timeline because she wants to hand it over to law enforcement. And Desiree Young gives a great, great timeline of Terry's day here.
I can tell you to this day, 13 years later, every single place I went to that day, and I know because that was the day the world came out from under me. I know what I ate for goddamn lunch. I can tell you everything I did that day, and she can't figure out where she was or what she did. It took me a while before I where it was so glaring that we all looked at each other, we all being Kane, Tony, and I. There's just no other person, right? Well, I'll tell you that our law enforcement team was very good not to focus too early on her.
Okay.
It was because of Terri alone, her actions, her lies, everything that we could prove, all the physical evidence, all the circumstantial evidence. It was because of all of that that they really started focusing on her. It wasn't any other reason. I will say that they have gone out of their way to exhaust every other angle and suspect out there. They have ruled out every parent that was in the school that day, every registered sex offender in the area, every house that neighbors up to the school. They have ruled out every single possible other person except one. I should say two. Terry's friend, Dede Spicher.
And that's where we're going to end for today. Dede Spicher, Terri Horman's accomplice, the other focus by law enforcement, the one who has immunity in the state of Oregon, that Desiree Young is still trying the best she can to get taken away from her because she did nothing to help law enforcement. And that immunity deal was so wrong. The DA messed it up so bad. And I cannot wait to introduce you guys to Dede Spicher. She's pure evil. She thinks she's getting away with something, and we're not going to allow her to get away with anything here on Missing PNW. I think she is the one that unalived Kyron, in my opinion. That is also the opinion of Desiree Young. It's absolutely horrific to know that these two women have been walking around free for 15 years because no DA wanted to push forward in Kyron's case, a nobody's case, and it's just sad. And in the beginning, they just wanted to find Kyron. Dead or alive, they wanted to find Kyron and then prosecute Terri. And then the Casey Anthony case came. And it ruined it. It ruined everything for Kyron's case and scared the piss out of the DA's office of wanting to push forward with Kyron with a nobody. But we will move on next week to talk about Dede Spicher. It's just too much of a live to talk about Terri and Dede in the same live. They're two separate people doing two separate things that day. And I will paint a picture for you. Again, Terri Horman has been the focus of law enforcement for 15 years. And so has her accomplice, Dede Spicher. If you have any information about Terri Horman or Dede Spicher on the day that Kyron disappeared, the day that Kyron vanished on June 4th, 2010, put yourself back on that day. If you're from the community, remember the day that Kyron came up missing. What did you see? Did you see a white truck driving around? Did you see either one of these redhead women driving a truck, doing anything? The roads that I am about to mention are the roads that we know Terri Horman drove that day. Newberry Road, Logie Road, Skyline Boulevard, Old Germantown Road, Cornelius Pass Road, Rocky Point Road, Highway 30. There's a possibility that Terri Horman could have been on Sauvie Island, there close to the Kyron home that runs east and west also along Highway 30. I'm trying to think if there's any more roads. This is Dede Spicher. Dede Spicher was working at West Wind Farm Studios on Old Germantown Road, and has the same unaccounted time and a lot more time than Terri Horman did the day that Kyron disappeared. No one could find her working on that property. Nobody. And multiple people tried searching for her. If you have any information about Dede Spicher or Terri Horman, please call Loma County Sheriff's Office phone number at 503-988-0560.
That maybe the picture had been taken before.
This is Kyron Horman. He disappeared and vanished on June 4, 2010 in Portland, Oregon from his school's science fair at approximately 8:50 a.m. in the morning, leaving with Terri Horman. If you saw Kyron with Terri, if you saw anything up at the school, please call law enforcement at 503-988-0560. Any information coming in, there is a reward fund for Kyron. You can remain anonymous. Kyron Horman left the school with Terri Horman on June 4th, 2010. Kyron did not wander away. Kyron was not kidnapped. Well, you could actually say he was kidnapped by Terri, but he was not kidnapped. This isn't a stranger abduction. Please call law enforcement with any tips. Remember, Terri Horman had the truck on June 3rd and June 4th. Remember, her Mustang, her bright red Mustang in the area, seen driving around in all of these rural locations the week prior to Kyron's disappearance. Her license plate at the time said Red Squirrel. It was a personalized license plate. I believe that's the reason why Terri Horman picked her truck to drive that day, because her red Mustang would have stuck out like a sore thumb. If you've seen anything the week prior or days after Kyron's disappearance or know anything, please call law enforcement at 503-988-0560. 15 years. Kyron's parents have not known where their son is. And Desiree Young believes that her son is no longer with us. Kane still holds on to the possibility that Kyron is out there somewhere. Terry's supporters would have you believe, and Terry's own son would have you believe, that law enforcement is looking for Kyron overseas. I have been told by the detective they are not looking overseas for Kyron. It's a local investigation. Local investigation. I was lied to by James, Terry's son, when he told me that Detective Tabor told him that they were looking overseas for Kyron, to share Kyron overseas. James lied. Why would he do that? Is he covering up for his mom? What does he know? It's very telling that he would lie about law enforcement looking overseas for Kyron when they're not. James refused to answer any questions regarding his mom when he spoke with Detective Tabor. Why would he do that? Why not answer questions about your mom, James? I don't know if Dede and Terri would ever share what they have done to Kyron Horman or what happened that day on June 4th, 2010. I know Terri Horman would fall asleep and talk in her sleep and mention things out loud while she was sleeping. I heard that from Joseph Cristobal, Terry's ex-boyfriend. I don't know if they would ever speak of what they have done. But if you know anything, if Dede or Terri ever said anything to you, law enforcement finds out that you know something and you haven't came forward and reported it to law enforcement, you will go down for hindering the investigation. So Rick, Dede Spicer's brother, if you did come down and pick up Dede that day that Kyron came up missing, talk to law enforcement if you haven't already. Or did you come and pick her up a few months later? There are other people that are close to Rick, like his wife. If you have any information, if Dede ever told you anything, it's time for you to come forward and talk to law enforcement. Dede Spicher is an accomplice, in my opinion. She has been the other focus of law enforcement. She would have never been given immunity had she not done something or knew something or had some kind of knowledge in Kyron Horman's disappearance. Period. No matter what any of Dede Spicer's family members want to say or think, that is a fact. Why did Dede Spicher take law enforcement to burner phones? Why did her and Terri have burner phones on the day that Kyron disappeared? Why did they have burner phones sexting a man at the end of the month instead of out looking for Kyron? You don't use burner phones unless you have something to hide. Dede is communicating with Terri on burner phones to this day and on social media using fake accounts, using people, possibly using people to communicate with each other. And if that person that's helping them communicate doesn't come forward and talk, you're hindering the investigation. I've only heard that they're in communication with each other from Joseph Cristobal, and that there is a third person helping them communicate. So that's just a FYI for anybody out there that says that if that isn't true, that's just something I've heard, yes. So I just want to put that out there. I don't know that that is a fact. But if there is a third person out there, come forward to law enforcement. Talk to the family, talk to law enforcement, tell somebody what you know. 503-988-0560. Kyron Horman deserves justice, and his family deserves to have peace and know exactly what happened to their son. 15 years is way too long. Way, way too long. But we know that, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years go by and people are found out in the elements. So if you're out there in the Skyline neighborhood, in those areas, see anything on any of those walking trails or anything, don't pick it up. Call law enforcement in case it has something to do with Kyron. Hunters, hikers, whatever. Just be aware of your surrounding. Okay, so thank you guys for joining. Thank you guys for coming here and supporting Kyron's family. I really hope to see everybody up at the event for Kyron on June 1st at 7 p.m. at Skyline Elementary School for the candle vigil for the love of Kyron is the event's name. His mom, Desiree Young, will be there. Maybe even his dad. His dad does live there and then in the neighborhood, could be there. I don't know. And, you know, let's support the family and yeah, be there. Thank you guys so much for coming. Trying to think if there's anything else that I want to talk about. I don't think there is. Don't forget about my all-day live for Kyron on June 4th, 2025, the 15th anniversary of Kyron's disappearance. I hope to see you guys all there. Thank you guys so much for coming in. I really appreciate you. Let's put up some frogs and blue hearts for Kyron Horman. Have an amazing Memorial Day weekend. Please take the time to think about the men and women that have fought for our country, that have died for our freedom. And be safe out there this Memorial weekend. I am going to be making some strawberry rhubarb jam. I've got 20 pounds of sugar sitting right behind me. I've got all my lids for my jars. I've got my pectin. All I got to do is go get my strawberries and my rhubarb, and I'm good to go. That's what I'm doing over the weekend. And then I think we got a fishing trip. But I want you to enjoy your weekend. Do something for yourself over the weekend. Take care of your mental health. Take care of you. Love one another. Stay true and be kind.